Chapter 747. Although Bao Bao was usually unreliable and liked to boast, he did have superior talent in terms of training. Not long after Qin Wushuang was not at the peak of the common mysterious stage, Bao Bao also successfully entered the peak of the common mysterious stage. Of course, Bao Bao's peak of the common mysterious stage was completely different than Qin Wushuang. Bao Bao had the bloodline of the divine beast and the bloodline of the immemorial spiritual monkey. Being the Gold Monkey King, he had a completely different path to break into the supreme Tao stage compared to human martial artists. For spiritual beasts to enter the supreme Tao stage, they must find the opportunity to ignite the bloodline of the divine beast and congeal the soul of the divine beast. During this process, if there were other divine beast bloodlines as a guide or a living environment, it would be the most suitable and beneficial for the breakthrough. Bao Bao and Lone stood next to Qin Wushuang carefully. Unlike his usual self, Bao Bao did not make any jokes. Instead, he waited for Qin Wushuang to speak seriously. Qin Wushuang opened the map. For this trip to the first-rate Dragon Palace, we will travel close to 10 million miles. Along the way, I believe there will be countless dangers waiting for us. Now, you two have a chance to make a dash for the Supreme Tao stage. I think it's time to test you guys. Boss, what do you mean? Bao Bao blinked his eyes. From here to the first-rate Dragon Palace, we will act separately. We will strive to regroup at the first-rate Dragon Palace in year. How about it? Qin Wushuang asked. Boss, this endless eastern sea is the stage for us three brothers to show our power. Why should we split up? Bao Bao could not understand. Bao Bao, if the three of us stay together, it will be easy to expose ourselves. If we split up, you guys will be much less attractive. In the eyes of others, you are just ordinary beasts of the endless eastern sea. Bao Bao, the future period will be the most difficult time since we started our journey. When we gather together and encounter powerful enemies, it will not work even if we work together. However, if we split up, we can scatter the targets and make the enemies unable to catch us. Bao Bao opened his mouth. He felt Boss' words made sense. However, he still felt reluctant to split up like this. Lone was much calmer as he pulled Bao Bao. Bao Bao, Boss has his reasons for making this decision. I think we should listen to him. Bao Bao mumbled, but what? There will be plenty of opportunities for the three of us to work together. When we all enter the Supreme Tao stage, wouldn't this Tianxian land be ours to gallop? Lone appeared to have great foresight. To dilute the emotion of parting, Qin Wushuang laughed. Bao Bao, this 1 year is only a rough estimate. However, I would like to make an agreement with all of you. The next time we meet, I hope that all three of us will have entered the supreme divine Tao realm. Are the two of you confident? When talking about the Supreme Tao stage, Bao Bao immediately became interested. Of course, Senior Lone, do you have the confidence? Lone's cultivation was one step behind, but it refused to admit defeat. It said arrogantly, "You have confidence. How can I not have confidence? As long as I have the chance, I will definitely be able to reach the divine Tao realm." Bao Bao, don't think that you are the only one with the bloodline of the ancient spiritual monkey. I, Senior Lone, am also a mutated spiritual beast. All right. Boss, let's make an appointment then. 1 year later at the first-rate Dragon Palace. See you there. Yes, but I have to warn you about something. After we split up, Bao Bao, you better not cause too much trouble. At this endless eastern sea, the more capable ones come out. You must not be careless. Bao Bao laughed mischievously. Boss, you can rest assured about this. What do I specialize in the most? That is to steer according to the wind. Certainly, I will not provoke those that I cannot afford to offend. All right, then let's meet at the first-rate Dragon Palace. After bidding farewell to Bao Bao and Lone, Qin Wushuang's mood was somewhat solemn. After all, Qin Wushuang was somewhat reluctant to part with his two best friends. Only, he had made this decision after careful consideration. With the three of them as old partners, even if they could change their appearance, it would be easy for many Supreme Tao elite warriors to see through the problem. Two spiritual beasts, one human, Such partnership was naturally the signature of the three of them. If they split up, Qin Wushuang would be alone. With the cover of the heart illusion mask, it would not be easy for him to expose his identity. Bao Bao and Lone, these two spiritual beasts were extremely common at the endless Eastern Sea and were not eye-catching. After 3 days, Qin Wushuang arrived at a major city of the Dragon Clan. This city was the largest Dragon King city at the River Gulf. The River Gulf was the territory of the Fish Dragon Clan, one of the non-traditional dragon clans. Qin Wushuang came to the territory of the Fish Dragon Clan. Firstly, it was on the way, and secondly, there were other reasons. Walking on the streets of the Dragon Clan, he experienced the rich regional customs of this eastern sea. Although Qin Wushuang was in a crisis, he also felt a trace of satisfaction. After entering the city, Qin Wushuang asked around and learned that the largest shop of the Fish Dragon City was located at the southern part of the city. When he arrived at the southern part of the city, a flourishing presence swept across his face. Various martial artists adventuring on the sea were walking on the street. They were all dressed differently. Like the freelance martial artists of the Xianyuan Mound, these adventuring martial artists came in an endless stream. When he raised his head to look, a glittering golden signboard entered his eyes. Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon. This is the place. Let's see if I can get lucky. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was somewhat worried about personal gains and losses. Yet, he still organized his mood and walked in with a calm expression. Even if he wanted to acquire that thing urgently, he would never want to show it on his face. This Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon had a total of 5 floors. Each floor sold different things. The treasures on the first floor sold lower-level goods and were prepared for those freelance martial artists. Naturally, Qin Wushuang did not have much interest. He walked up the stairs. When he walked to the second floor, Qin Wushuang gave a few glances. He realized that although the quality had increased, to him, it was still too low. It was not suitable for his current identity and strength. When he arrived at the third floor, he slowly started to see some good things. To those adventurers at the Void Martial stage, these things were already valuable. However, to Qin Wushuang, it was still somewhat difficult to enter his eyes. Qin Wushuang did not linger too much as he walked up the stairs. Upon seeing Qin Wushuang's attitude, the mermaid lady did not dare to neglect him. She asked politely, "Sir, is there anything I can help you with?" Qin Wushuang revealed a friendly smile. "If I need it, I will trouble you again." The mermaid salesgirl smiled and tactfully took a few steps back. Qin Wushuang walked to the fourth floor. To freelance martial artists, the things on the fourth floor were already luxurious goods. They were things they could only dream of. Qin Wushuang stopped to look for a moment and revealed a somewhat disappointed expression. To elite warriors at the Void Martial stage, or even the exquisite mysterious boundary stage, these things were definitely good things. For example, different types of healing panacea, summoned beasts, and various powerful weapons and tools. However, for Qin Wushuang, who was used to seeing good things, these things were still not enough to satisfy his appetite. He looked at the 5th floor of the Treasure Pavilion leisurely and thought, "This Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon is known as the biggest shop. They operate everything. If the 5th floor of the Treasure Pavilion does not have the things I want, this Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon has an undeserved reputation." When he thought here, he did not stop his footsteps and walked up. "Sir, please stop." Just as he arrived at the entrance of the 5th floor, he was stopped by 2 giant crab warriors. Qin Wushuang raised his eyebrow lightly. "What? Isn't this a marketplace?" "Sorry, sir, this is a marketplace. However, it is only open to martial artists above the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. If you want to enter, you must have this qualification." Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. "How do you test it?" "This is simple. When you enter through that door, there's a barrier. If your strength is above the exquisite mysterious boundary stage, you can pass through freely. If you have not, and enter rashly, you will be attacked by the barrier. In the worst case, you will lose your life. In the best case, you will lose all your strength." Qin Wushuang smiled bitterly. Now, he knew that they had stopped him as a friendly reminder. He nodded. "All right, I understand." He cupped his hands in a dismissive manner and continued to walk towards the door. When those two giant crab warriors saw that Qin Wushuang was acting so arrogant at such a young age, they clicked their tongues in wonder inwardly. They thought that a genius martial artist from the 18 dragon clans had arrived. Thus, they did not dare to neglect and made a path for him. At the endless eastern sea, for ordinary young people, if they were not disciples of the 18 dragon clans, it would be impossible for them to enter the exquisite, mysterious boundary stage at such a young age. Therefore, they unconsciously linked Qin Wushuang to the disciples of the 18 dragon clans. Additionally, in their subconscious mind, the disciples of the 18 dragon clans had powerful spending power. The arrival of such a person was equivalent to the arrival of the god of wealth. They would welcome him. How could they drive him away? When they passed the barrier, the two giant crab warriors opened their eyes widely. They fixed their gaze on Qin Wushuang as he walked over and were endlessly astonished. It was as if that barrier did not exist at all. Judging from the way he passed through, it was as easy as blowing off dust. As soon as Qin Wushuang passed through the barrier, a shopping guide greeted him with a smile. Welcome to the 5th floor of the Treasure Pavilion of Fairy Dragon. This is the shopping paradise of the fish-kissed Dragon City. Here, you can buy everything you want. Everything I want. Qin Wushuang revealed a faint smile. Can I buy the supreme Dao fruit? That shopping guide was stunned and said with a somewhat embarrassed smile, Sir, you really know how to tell jokes. For something like the supreme Dao fruit, it's not something that can be measured with money. Our fish-kissed dragon clan might not even have this thing. Even if our treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon has it, how could we dare to sell it? Qin Wushuang was slightly surprised. Yet, he did not say anything and walked around casually. Sir, if you need a supreme Dao armor or a supreme Dao weapon, we can think of a way. Qin Wushuang shook his head. Do you have any signature treasures here? Signature treasures? That shopping guide looked at Qin Wushuang in surprise. Sir, what do you want to buy? I only want to buy your signature treasures. The shop assistant smiled and said, Our treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon has a lot of treasures. All of them are priceless. Sir, do you want to broaden your horizons or confirm your purchase? If you want to buy, I will go and inform the person in charge of the treasure pavilion. Go and inform them. Qin Wushuang waved his hand casually. He really did not want to bicker with the shopping guide. The things he wanted could not be seen outside. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 748. Not long after, a middle-aged man walked out from inside. This person was dressed in a green robe. There was a faint purple aura on his face, and he emitted a faint dragon breath. Obviously, this should be the person in charge of the treasure pavilion of Mythical Dragon. I am Yun Kung, the person in charge of the treasure pavilion of Mythical Dragon. I heard that you are interested in the signature treasure of the treasure pavilion of Mythical Dragon. Qin Wushuang did not hide and nodded lightly. Please come in. Yun Kung waved his hand and made a pleased gesture. Qin Wushuang followed Yun Kung and walked inside. After sitting down in a private room, they served the local Qi Wen tribe's unique wine. Yun Kung sat opposite Qin Wushuang and looked at Qin Wushuang with a faint smile. Each of the signature treasures of the treasure pavilion of Mythical Dragon is no small matter. Moreover, they are divided into several grades. What grade is a supreme Dao weapon in the treasure pavilion of Mythical Dragon? Qin Wushuang asked directly. It is considered the first grade of outstanding. Yin Kong did not even blink and answered directly. The first grade of outstanding? In that case, there's a higher grade? Qin Wushuang asked again. Above the first grade of outstanding is the first grade of supreme grade. We do not have many items of the first grade of supreme grade. There are only a few of them. These items cannot be bought with crystal stones normally. It is also not something that can be measured with money. Qin Wushuang did not find it strange. The grade of supreme Dao weapon was not something that could be measured with crystal stones. To many cultivators, supreme Dao weapons were like castles in the air that could be encountered but not sought. Then, is the supreme Dao armor considered the first grade of supreme grade? Qin Wushuang asked again. Yin King's expression changed slightly, and he cried out involuntarily. Sir, you are not thinking of buying a Supreme Dao armor, are you? To Supreme Dao elite warriors, all of them had a Supreme Dao weapon. Even for those big sects and big clans, there might be a few people who did not have a Supreme Dao weapon occasionally. However, the Supreme Dao armor was different. Every time a piece of Supreme Dao armor appeared, it was an existence that was comparable to an earthquake. Even if it was a Supreme Dao elite warrior, there was no guarantee that all of them would have a Supreme Dao armor. The Supreme Dao armor was worthy of being called a top-grade item. Is there? Qin Wushuang asked. Yun Kong sighed and said, If there's a Supreme Dao armor, I'm afraid you won't be able to buy it. If this item was the treasure of the store, it would naturally not be sold off so easily. Furthermore, this treasure pavilion of divine dragons was ultimately a shop in the Fish Dragon City. If they had divine Dao armor, they would first sell it to the Fish Dragon clan. To tell you the truth, we used to have Supreme Dao battle armors, but we don't have any now. For Qin Wushuang to ask so many questions in a roundabout way, it was naturally not because he wanted to buy some Supreme Dao battle armor. He had 2 sets of Supreme Dao armor on him. Then what do you have at the highest grade? Qin Wushuang asked lightly. Yin Kong saw that this guest was indeed different from the rest. Whether it was in terms of temperament or cultivation, he was an existence that rarely appeared in his treasure pavilion of mystical dragons. The position of this Heavenly Kiss clan was similar to the middle-level sects of the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates. Only, the territory they governed was much wider. Therefore, within the territory of the Heavenly Kiss clan, there were only 3 Supreme Dao elite warriors. Beneath the Supreme Dao stage, of course, they were elite warriors of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. Usually, the treasure pavilion of mystical dragons would not receive an elite warrior of the exquisite mysterious boundary stage in 10 days or half a month. Therefore, this Yin Kong would not dare to neglect him. At the endless Eastern Sea, those that could train to the exquisite mysterious boundary stage were exceptional existences. Not to mention the person before him was this young. Due to this layer of mentality, Yin Kong did not conceal it. We only have 3 pieces of the treasure of the best quality. They are the Recuperate Pearl, the Fish Dragon Iron Bone, and the 6 scrolls of the Dragon Breath Seal. Why are these 3 pieces more powerful than Supreme Dao weapons? Qin Wushuang was moved inwardly, yet he asked without batting an eyelid. It's clear that the Recuperate Pearl is prepared for the common Supreme Dao stage at the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. By acquiring this Recuperate Pearl, it can greatly increase the speed of making a dash for the Supreme Dao stage. It's nurtured by the divine beasts by collecting souls. The Fish Dragon Iron Bone is the dragon bone of the Fish Dragon clan after they passed away. It's absolutely suitable to be used to make Supreme Dao weapons. The Dragon Breath Seal is formed by the strongest dragon breath attack of the Supreme Dao elite warriors of the Dragon clan. 6 scrolls of the seal are equivalent to 6 attacks. Each attack is equivalent to the strongest attack of a Supreme Dao elite warrior. How precious is it compared to a Supreme Dao weapon? A Supreme Dao weapon was dead. It could only unleash its most powerful power in the hands of a Supreme Dao warrior. For those beneath the Supreme Dao stage, at most they could only unleash 30 to 40% of their power. Compared to the seal that could release the attack of a divine beast, of course it was somewhat inferior. Of course, regardless of the Recuperate Pearl or the Dragon Breath Seal, they were not Qin Wushuang's goal. Although, these 2 items were very good. The Recuperate Pearl is good, the Dragon Breath Seal is also good. That Fish Dragon Iron Bone is only a material to forge a Supreme Dao weapon. Why is it more valuable than a Supreme Dao weapon? Yin Kong smiled and said, You only know one aspect of it and don't know the other. Putting aside that Supreme Dao weapons also have different aptitudes, this Fish Dragon Iron Bone is the remains of a divine beast in itself. The material itself is a Supreme Dao weapon. If it's processed by a master, it'll naturally become a divine weapon. Furthermore, this fish dragon iron bone has a lot of materials. It's naturally impossible to forge just one piece. It can at least forge 3 supreme Tao weapons. You say, isn't it more valuable than ordinary supreme Tao weapons? It's just a pity that there's no supreme Tao armor. Qin Wushuang deliberately sighed. Yun Kong smiled bitterly and said, already said, supreme Tao armor can be encountered but not sought. If there is, I'm afraid that your distinguished self can't buy it either. These words aren't offensive. Supreme Tao armor is better than these 3 items. Yin Kung smiled and said, that's of course. I'm afraid that 1 supreme Tao armor is sufficient to match the value of these 3 items added together, right? After all, these 3 items don't have much attraction to a supreme Tao elite warrior. But a supreme Tao armor similarly possesses a top-notch attraction to a supreme Tao elite warrior. Qin Wushuang nodded his head. Musing for a moment, he asked again, these 3 cornerstone treasures of your shop, what price will it take for you to sell them? Not hiding from you. These cornerstone treasures, normally speaking, we use them for decoration. Things like crystal stones, it's really impossible to buy them, unless you can take out treasures of equivalent value to exchange for them. Of course, if you can have supreme Tao armor, these 3 items, you can directly take them away. Of course, there was supreme Tao armor. But Qin Wushuang did not plan on taking out that kind of good thing to exchange. Even a supreme Tao elite warrior was interested in the supreme Tao armor. Qin Wushuang naturally had his own little scheme. This kind of trade that would result in a loss, he naturally would not do it. However, he was very interested in that fish dragon iron bone. One could say that coming to this fish dragon city, his goal was aiming for the fish dragon iron bone. This treasure pavilion of divine dragon. There was actually really a good fish dragon iron bone. This made Qin Wushuang feel very happy. However, in order to not make himself appear very desperate, he did not show any special enthusiasm for the fish dragon iron bone. Brother Yin, do you have that kind of spiritual energy origin pearl here? That kind of treasure that can unconditionally replenish spiritual energy below supreme Tao elite warriors and can endlessly consume it in battle? Qin Wushuang suddenly asked. Yin Kong touched his nose and sighed. This kind of thing is not easy to get. In terms of practicality, it's not inferior to that recuperate pearl. The recuperate pearl is useful for assailing the supreme Tao realm, but it can't unconditionally replenish spiritual energy when consumed in battle. Brother Yin, can you think of a way to get one? Roughly what grade it is, you set the price. This thing is at least not inferior to the recuperate pearl. Exchanging for that fish dragon iron bone or the dragon breath seal is not a problem. Yin Kong was honest. This kind of thing that could endlessly replenish was a good thing. Compared to those one-time consumption supreme Tao attacks, its practicality was even stronger. Can you get it? Qin Wushuang blinked and asked. Yin Kong sighed and said, it's not easy. There's almost no hope. Our treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon has been open for thousands of years, and we have never encountered this kind of thing. If someone can really get one for me, I'd rather, forget it. It's a waste of words. Rather what? Qin Wushuang deliberately smiled and asked, Brother Yun, you can't just raise the price and brag about this thing. I'm not bragging. I really can't get this kind of good thing. Even if I could, I wouldn't sell it to you. If there is such a thing, what price would Brother Yun be willing to pay to purchase it? Qin Wushuang pretended to ask carelessly. To be honest, if anyone can use this thing to exchange, I'm willing to use the fish dragon iron bone and 3 scrolls of the dragon breath seal to exchange for it. There's still hope to obtain the fish dragon iron bone in the territory of the fish dragon tribe. The dragon breath seal can also be regenerated. But that spiritual energy origin bead, to be honest, cannot be regenerated. Qin Wushuang smiled and said, Brother Yun is an honest person. Listening to your tone, with this spiritual energy origin bead, even if I ask you to give up 3 treasures, you'd be willing, right? Yin King thought for a while and still shook his head. Then it's not worth it. That spiritual energy origin bead is at most of the same level as the recuperate bead. After all, the recuperate bead has the qualifications to assail the supreme Tao stage. Although the spiritual energy origin bead is good, it has no benefits at all for assailing the supreme Tao stage. Suddenly, Yin Kung suddenly realized something. He looked toward Qin Wushuang with a somewhat strange gaze and said, "Your Excellency." Qin Wushuang said with a smile that was not a smile, "That's right. I have this spiritual energy origin bead." After saying that, Qin Wushuang did not hide it and directly held the spiritual energy origin bead in the palm of his hand. It emitted a powerful aura. Under the contrast of Qin Wushuang's divine power, it appeared even more extraordinary. Yun Kung was the person in charge of the treasure pavilion of mystical dragons. He had a paranoid love for treasures. His eyes immediately lit up as he looked at the spiritual energy origin bead in shock. His eyes were filled with fanaticism. It's true. It's really the spiritual energy origin bead. Look, the spiritual energy in the surroundings is converging toward it in a very orderly manner. It's really a good item. Yin Kung sighed emotionally. He looked at Qin Wushuang with a sincere gaze. "Your Excellency, please tell me, what conditions would it take for you to transfer it to my treasure pavilion of mystical dragons?" Qin Wushuang said, "The recuperate bead, the fish dragon iron bone, and the dragon breath seal. Altogether, this is my price." Yin Kung smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Your Excellency, this price is impossible. You also know that the recuperate bead is definitely on par with this spiritual energy origin bead. To different people, each of them has its own merits in terms of preciousness. Other than the recuperate bead, the other two items added together in exchange for this item of yours. How about it?" Yin King's abacus was also very shrewd. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 749. To Qin Wushuang, this price was already close to his bottom line. After all, this spirit energy origin pearl was already close to useless to him who was about to break through to the supreme Tao stage. Although this good thing could be left for others to use, Qin Wushuang came here naturally because there was something he urgently needed here. Therefore, Qin Wushuang decided to continue bargaining. "It's not hard to find a fish iron bone and the dragon breath seal here. I only have one shop for this spirit energy origin pearl. I haven't seen any other branches for the time being." Qin Wushuang also raised the price on the spot. Yun Kong said, "It's absolutely impossible for the recuperate pearl to be included in the price. Unless you can take out a supreme Tao armor, we'll part with the recuperate pearl." "Supreme Tao armor? I still want it myself." Qin Wushuang chuckled. "Then let's wait for you to have a price that moves me. Let's talk about it again. Perhaps I'll come to the treasure pavilion of mystical dragon again a few decades later." Yin Kung saw that Qin Wushuang got up and was about to leave. He hurriedly said, "Sir, it's easy to discuss. What other things do you still want? We can use other things to make up for it. Other than the recuperate pearl, just say the word. As long as there's something, we'll definitely let you have it. Other than the recuperate pearl, the other things don't have much attraction to me." Qin Wushuang sighed. "Exchange the recuperate pearl for the spirit energy origin pearl. If you want to exchange, I can help you apply. But if you add the other two, that's definitely not possible." Yin King's attitude showed a trace of loosening. Qin Wushuang smiled leisurely and said, "I want all three to be packaged together. Only this way can the value of the spirit energy origin pearl be reflected." Yin Kung was a businessman. This price was definitely something he could not accept. No matter how he calculated, it was a losing deal. But he really did not want to give up the spirit energy origin pearl. If this thing belonged to the treasure pavilion of mystical dragon, it would definitely be an existence that could shine as brilliantly as the recuperate pearl. A perfect pair would become the treasure pavilion of mystical dragon's signature. It was precisely because of this thought that Yun Kong was so fanatical. "Sir, if you're sincere, you should know that we'll lose a lot of money with your price. The treasure pavilion of mythical dragons has been in business for thousands of years. They definitely won't do a losing business." Qin Wushuang laughed and said, Then if I only exchange for the fish dragon iron bone and the dragon breath seal, I will definitely lose out. Wouldn't it be a huge loss for me to trade for something that can be consumed endlessly? The corners of Yun King's mouth twitched, yet he didn't know how to quote a price for a moment. Other than the spirit recuperation pearl, none of the prices they offered seemed to be suitable for the other party. In that case, I can add another supreme Dao weapon. Yun Kong clenched his teeth and increased the price. Haha, this price is not bad. However, I don't really need a supreme Dao weapon. I still want to transfer a supreme Dao weapon to you. Qin Wushuang suddenly said, All right, in order to show my sincerity, I'll add another piece of armor. It was an armor that was invincible against those below the supreme Dao level. It was only slightly inferior to the supreme Dao battle armor. This armor and the spiritual energy elemental bead in exchange for 3 of your items. How about it? What armor? Take it out and appraise it. Yin Kung pondered for a moment and said. Qin Wushuang didn't act pretentious and took out the already retired azure armor. Although this thing wasn't a supreme Dao battle armor, the entire armor contained a deep azure color. Its appearance was very eye-catching, and it looked even better than a supreme Dao battle armor. As soon as it was taken out, Yin Kong sucked in a breath of cold air. While admiring the azure armor, he couldn't help but give Qin Wushuang a few more glances. His heart was full of question marks. Where did this young man come from? How come he has so many good things? It's a pity that this young man is too shrewd. When he talks about prices, he's really ruthless. Brother Yin, what do you think? Deal or no deal, just say the word. Qin Wushuang laughed heartily. I'm a straightforward person. It's a one-time deal. Yin Kong said, Sir, I don't dare to make a decision on this matter. Allow me to ask for instructions. How about it? Qin Wushuang said with a smile, Wait, I'll give you another price. I'll use this armor to exchange for your fish dragon iron bone. At the same time, help me collect the other 4 things. If you can collect all of them, I'll exchange this armor with you. Oh, what are they? Tell me. Yun Kong calculated. The quality of this armor was enough to exchange for the fish dragon iron bone. Indeed, as the other party said, this armor had the strongest defense below the Supreme Dao stage. If a Supreme Dao elite warrior decorated it a little, it would be no problem to exchange for half a Supreme Dao battle armor. Qin Wushuang picked up the brush and ink and wrote on a piece of white paper. Hibiscus wood, sealwort soil, first heaven water, scarlet fire. Yin Kong couldn't help wiping his sweat. These 4 things were not ordinary things. Their store had 1 or 2 of them, but they didn't have the others at all. Sir, sealwort soil and first heaven water, these 2 things are relatively easy to obtain. I can provide them. As for the other 2, my store can't take them out at all. To tell you the truth, unless you use a Supreme Dao battle armor to exchange for those 2 things, it's impossible to exchange for them. Qin Wushuang's heart sank. They're so hard to come by. Yin Kong sighed. Sir, don't tell me you don't even know what these things are. Qin Wushuang really only knew what they were, but didn't know why they were. He only grabbed the herbs according to the list, and really didn't have much understanding of the origins of these few things. All right, these 2 things are fine too. Qin Wushuang took a step back. Yun Kong said seriously, I still have to ask for instructions from the higher-ups for this transaction. Please wait a moment. Yun Kong walked inside and came out again after a while and said to Qin Wushuang, I've asked for instructions from the great pavilion master for this transaction. He's already rushing over personally and will be here soon. Please wait patiently. Qin Wushuang glanced at Yin Kong warily. Yin Kong was a businessman and was experienced and knowledgeable, observing words and body language. He knew Qin Wushuang's misgivings and hurriedly explained with a smile, Please rest assured about this. Our treasure pavilion of mythical dragons business is so big, and we've never committed any evil acts of cheating or swindling. If you have good things, we'll only purchase them out of goodwill, and there won't be a situation of forcefully buying or demanding. Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. That's for the best. If a conflict arises, it'll probably become a big joke. Yun Kong saw that the other party was not afraid and was calm and collected and did not dare to slight him. He clicked his tongue in wonder in his heart, trying to figure out just which family's disciple Qin Wushuang was from. Before long, an old man with white hair and beard quickly walked up from downstairs. This person's footsteps were light and graceful. Each step he took had the gait of a dragon or a tiger, with the momentum of overturning rivers and seas. His dragon aura even displayed his super powerful strength. He was actually also the strongest existence below divine Tao. This dragon pressure also displayed this old man's dragon race identity. However, Qin Wushuang seemed to have turned a deaf ear to it. This dragon pressure naturally could not scare him. Even that horned dragon clan's witch, Mi Jia, could not shake Qin Wushuang. This old man had yet to enter the divine Tao, so he naturally did not enter Qin Wushuang's eyes. Yin Keng, you step back. That old man waved his hand and shouted at Yin Keng to step back. He sat down in front of Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. Old mister, is this transaction still acceptable? May I know where little brother is from? This old man asked with a solemn face. Does old mister have to ask about the origin of every guest? Qin Wushuang asked indifferently and was extremely unwilling to answer. That's not it. The old man shook his head. This price of yours, hee, is a little interesting. If my guess is correct, this is the material to make the golem puppet, right? Qin Wushuang's heart moved. He looked at this old man indifferently. Old mister, I only want to ask if this transaction is acceptable. If not, I will take my leave now. Yes, of course it is. Little brother, this old man has a price here. I don't want your elemental beads, nor do I want your armor. If you can give me a copy of the puppet-making secret manual, you can take away all 3 of the store's treasures. Moreover, we will give you the first heaven water and the earth essence free of charge. What about the hibiscus wood and the scarlet fire? Qin Wushuang asked indifferently. I'm very sorry about that. Not to mention that we don't have it here. I'm afraid that the territories of other dragon clans don't have it either. Unless the ancestral dragon clan has it in their collection. Qin Wushuang said in a low voice. The making method is a secret that cannot be passed on. I'd better exchange the armor for the fish dragon iron bone and those 2 supplementary materials. That old man shook his head leisurely. Then I won't exchange. Qin Wushuang opened his eyes widely and looked at this elder. The old man smiled calmly. Although this fish dragon iron bone is not something in defiance of the natural order, apart from our fish dragon clan, in the territories of other dragon clans, this item can only be encountered but not sought. According to what I know, many dragon bones can be used to make the golem puppet, but only the fish dragon iron bone is the most suitable. Am I right? Moreover, this fish dragon iron bone is the main material. Little brother, your ambition is not small. At such a young age, you are actually preparing for the Supreme Tao. This golem puppet is not at the Supreme Tao. It is not easy to control it all, right? Qin Wushuang snorted lightly. Old mister, are you raising the price on the spot? You can understand it that way. Wasn't your price for Yun Keng also raising the price on the spot? The old man chuckled, with an expression that said it was up to you whether to exchange or not. Qin Wushuang smiled strangely. All right, then I'll give it to you. However, let's make it clear, without the hibiscus wood and the scarlet fire, the secret manual I give you can only lack the refining method of these 2 items. If you can provide me with these 2 things, I might consider telling you the entire set of secret manuals. The old man was stunned for a moment. After a while, he sighed. Little brother, you really don't want to lose out at all. The fish dragon iron bone is the main material, and there are other supplementary materials. With each additional supplementary material, the golem puppet's aptitude will be better. There is a huge difference in quality between a golem refined with 4 supplementary materials and one refined with 2 supplementary materials. Then there is no other way. You get what you pay for. Now, your price is only this much. I can only give you this much. You can't buy on credit? The old man asked with a smile. If you want to buy on credit, then you need to have good credit and the ability to repay. According to what you said, even the Ancestor Dragon Clan might not have those 2 items. Who knows when your treasure pavilion of mystical dragons will have them? This ability to repay is debatable. Therefore, I won't accept this kind of high risk on credit. Qin Wushuang spoke in a businesslike tone. Qin Wushuang didn't know where Lu Xianlu got the refining method of the golem puppet from, but he never thought that it would be so valuable. However, to Qin Wushuang, it was a business without any capital. No matter how he looked at it, he would only earn and not lose. I originally planned to explode at dawn today, but I was temporarily restrained by mundane matters during the day. The remaining 2 chapters will be given to everyone tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's normal update will be calculated separately. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 750. That elder gave a long sigh. All right, then let's trade. Let's get the ugly words out of the way. You must not fool me with fake goods. Or else, most likely you will face the pursuit of the supreme Tao elite warriors of the Fish Dragon clan. You will even become the public enemy of the endless Eastern Sea. After all, there's a business alliance between the 18 dragon clans. Since you are suspected of fraud at the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon, the other dragon clans will also blacklist you. Qin Wushuang laughed. Don't worry. As long as your goods are genuine, my goods will not be fake. Let's make the price clear. I will give you the incomplete crafting technique. You can give me the Recuperate Pearl, Fish Dragon Iron Bone, Dragon Breath Seal, as well as the 1 Heavenly Water and Yellow Essence Soil. The elder nodded and gave a long sigh. Such a good guy doing business. You exchanged 1 of your goods for 5 of mine. You almost emptied the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon. Qin Wushuang said leisurely, Old mister, don't fool me. Do you truly think I will believe that your treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon only has 3 representative treasures? I am afraid even Yin Kung doesn't know about the other good goods, right? The elder roared with laughter. Secret, those are all secrets. Wait here for a moment. I will pack it for you immediately. Yes, I will also give you the secret technique. After about an hour, both parties took what they needed under a friendly atmosphere. On the surface, it seemed that the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon suffered a great loss by exchanging 5 items for 1. However, that elder had a face full of joy. Clearly, to him, the crafting method of this golem puppet was the same as picking up a treasure. The crafting method of this golem puppet was a secret that could not be passed on. Once he acquired it, it meant that after entering the Supreme Tao stage, he could craft the golem puppet as a Supreme Tao clone. In battle, it would definitely be an extremely flashy and practical divine skill. A puppet was equivalent to a life. With this calculation, it was not difficult to understand why this elder was so excited. Naturally, Qin Wushuang made a great profit. After all, he had the entire crafting method of the golem puppet. What he traded with the other party was only the refinement method of the Fish Dragon Iron Bone and 2 supplementary materials. What he had mastered was a complete set of refining methods with 1 main and 4 auxiliary methods. This method was more comprehensive than the methods used in education. Most importantly, in this transaction, Qin Wushuang did not even pay the price of the spiritual power origin bead and the azure armor. Qin Wushuang could be said to have returned from a fruitful journey and had reaped a great harvest in exchange for so many things. The refining method of the great golem puppet was intellectual property. In his previous world, intellectual property rights were often shared on the internet. Pirated and pirated versions often made intellectual property rights pale and powerless. Qin Wushuang had also shared this thing with Lu Xianlu, so he naturally wouldn't feel bad about it. After Qin Wushuang left the treasure pavilion of Divine Dragon, the old man looked at the handwritten manual and couldn't bear to put it down. The nearby Yun Kung couldn't help but say, This time, we allowed that fellow to gain a huge advantage. Great bargain. The old man smiled leisurely and said, Maybe he felt that he gained a little advantage, but in fact, we gained even more. Yin Kung, just you wait. One day, you'll know how wise of an exchange it was for us to use those things to exchange for this secret manual. Yin King's gaze wandered as he looked in the direction Qin Wushuang went. Should we investigate that fellow? I reckon that this fellow has quite a lot of treasures on him. This is not something we need to do. However, we can pass the news to the fish dragon tribe. How the residents of Dragon King will deal with it is their business. While they were talking, a figure suddenly flashed downstairs. This figure was like a ball of flame as it dashed up to the 5th floor of the pavilion. When Yun Kong saw the person, his face was filled with joy. It's actually Miss Mi Jia. What wind blew you here? Even the old man saw Mi Jia's unexpected appearance and said with some flattery, Tiske, Miss of the Horned Dragon tribe? You've actually grown to be so beautiful? What's even rarer is that your cultivation seems to have left us old fellows in the dust. Mi Jia shook her head elegantly, and her beautiful hair fluttered like waves. A familiar and unruly arc appeared at the corner of her mouth. Just now, did a fellow come here to buy something? Yin Kung hurriedly nodded and said, yes, there was a mysterious young master. Mi Jia pursed her lips, and her sexy red lips opened slightly. What did he buy? This. Yin Kung hesitated and looked at the old man. The old man shrugged his shoulders. Miss Mi Jia, our treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon usually does not reveal the information of our guests. Mi Jia's red phoenix eyes twitched. Old man, are you challenging my temper? Or do you think I'm easy to fool? Yin Kung hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, Miss Mi Jia, that fellow bought our Recuperate Pearl, 6 scrolls of sealed dragon's breath, and a set of fish ironbone. Aren't these things your lifeblood? How could you bear to sell them? The old man laughed dryly and said, he gave us some good stuff. What good stuff? Mi Jia asked carelessly. The old man's face turned green and purple, but he did not want to say it. The manufacturing method of the great golem puppet was a big secret. Once it was leaked, it would be hard to avoid being targeted. It was a rare commodity worth hoarding. Since he could not say it, he could only lie. It's a Supreme Dao armor. Miss Mi Jia, your armor is a Supreme Dao armor, right? Mi Jia smiled contemptuously. Isn't it just a Supreme Dao armor? Look at how nervous you are. I don't even fancy it. That fellow is really willing to part with it. He seems to be in urgent need of that kind of thing. Therefore, he is a little desperate. Yin Kung also started to talk nonsense to cover up the old man's lie. Mi Jia did not suspect him and was not very interested in the transaction itself. Instead, she asked, other than the transaction, did he say anything else? What else? Yin Kung asked in puzzlement. For example, where is he going and what is he planning to do? Yin Kung shook his head blankly. This fellow is very cunning. As soon as he came in, he was trying to trick me. After talking for a long time, he degraded our things to be worthless. Then, he deliberately asked me about the things he had and pretended to want to buy them. Using my mouth, he raised the value of those things. Then, he turned around and told me that he wanted to transfer these things. That little guy is really smart. Yin Kung, it's normal that you can't see through his tricks. Even I can't handle him. Mi Jia originally had a straight face. Suddenly, she laughed and said unhurriedly, is that bastard really as cunning as you said? He's even more cunning than we said. That bastard. Yin Kong echoed. Mi Jia's face darkened. What did you scold him for? Didn't I scold him along with Miss Mi Jia? Mi Jia said with a cold face, I can scold him, but you can't. Yin Kong was baffled. He thought to himself that she was indeed a witch, temperamental. She muttered something to herself. Soon after, a fragrant wind flashed, and Mi Jia's graceful figure floated down the stairs, leaving behind a dumbstruck Yin Kong. Ha! Yin Kong, don't look at me. I can't afford to offend this witch either. Don't you know that the best way to deal with this witch is to talk less? Yin Kong sighed. It seems that Miss Mi Jia is following that kid. That kid is going to be unlucky. Ha! Of all people to offend, he had to offend Miss Mi Jia. A strange smile appeared on the old man's face. What I'm more curious about is which family's disciple he is. There seems to be endless treasures on his body. You stay here and watch. I have to report this matter to the Chi-Wen Mansion. In a secret pavilion of the Chi-Wen Mansion, a mysterious expert of the Chi-Wen clan slowly opened her eyes. She said with a cold voice, Yin Ning, why are you looking for me? Marshal Ant Hong, this little nephew has some important matters that he needs to report. That woman inside the secret pavilion said lightly. When Yun Mo and Yun Xiao went to the first-rate dragon palace, didn't they leave you in charge of all matters of the mansion? Before the two patriarchs left, they did let me take charge of the important matters of the clan. However, some accidents happened recently. I feel deeply that it is difficult to make a sound alone, and I do not dare to make a decision. So I came to ask for your advice. That woman thought for a moment and asked, "What is it?" "Aunt, you are an elite warrior of the older generation. You should have heard of the graceful spiritual bow, right?" That woman's eyes lit up. "You're talking about the graceful spiritual bow?" When she said this woman's voice had clearly become urgent, and her expression had changed rapidly. Fortunately, she was indoors and that Yunning was outside. They could not see each other. "Aunt, indeed you have heard of the graceful spiritual bow. Now, that graceful spiritual bow has reappeared in the Tianxian land. The new owner of the graceful spiritual bow has arrived at the endless eastern sea. Now he is being pursued from all directions. According to the information, the new owner of this graceful spiritual bow is only a disciple of the Qin clan from the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates of the Xian Yuan Mount. He only has the strength of the exquisite, mysterious boundary stage. Therefore, elite warriors from all major forbidden spiritual zones have swarmed over to seize this graceful spiritual bow. According to the analysis of the information, I found that disciple of the Qin clan is most likely at our river abyss. He might even be at our Dragon Kiss city now." That woman muttered lightly, "The graceful spiritual bow has truly appeared?" Her expression froze as she said with a congealed voice, "Yin Ning, I know. For this matter, you don't need to get involved. I will investigate it myself. The Dragon Kiss Royal Mansion must not get involved, understand?" Yin Ning stuttered. "Aunt, isn't your involvement the same as the Dragon Kiss Royal Mansion's involvement?" That woman shook her head. "You are wrong. I'm only involved in my own name. The Dragon Kiss royal family will never get involved. Or else, most likely you will welcome a calamity. Remember this." Yun Ning was dumbstruck, yet he knew that his aunt was called Yun Hong. She was a proud son of heaven from a few thousand years ago. Her strength was at the top of the Dragon Kiss clan. Although she had a cold personality, she would never speak alarmist words to scare people. "Yin Ning, where did your information come from?" "Yin Hong," asked with an indifferent tone. Yin Ning did not dare to conceal the truth, as he said honestly, "News came from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon. A young man came to the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon to trade a large amount of goods. His strength is also extremely high. In the territory of my Dragon Kiss clan, there doesn't seem to be such a young man. In the surrounding territories, no disciple is like him." When he said this, he spoke of all the information from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon from beginning to end, including all the materials that Qin Wushuang had traded away. "Yes, I will investigate this matter myself. You don't need to get involved." After Yun Hong finished speaking, she transformed into a burst of red light and left the Dragon Kiss Royal Mansion. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 751. During the trip to Wen Dragon City, Qin Wushuang's harvest was not small. Not only did he collect the 3 materials for the golem puppet, he also unexpectedly obtained the Recuperate Pearl and the Dragon Breath Seal. To Qin Wushuang, this was definitely a great harvest. With these 3 materials, the great golem puppets were ready to be made. However, Qin Wushuang did not plan to be overly hasty. For this section of the Fish Dragon Iron Bone, Qin Wushuang estimated that if he used it well, he could make 7 golem puppets. Even if his technique was not mature enough and caused a certain amount of wastage, he could at least make 4 to 5. Apart from the Qi Iron Bone as the main material, the other 2 supplementary materials were also very abundant. What made Qin Wushuang vexed was that the golem puppet he wanted to make was the type that had all 5 materials. At present, there were only 3 materials. Although the remaining 2 supplementary materials did not have a decisive effect, but whether there were or not, it would determine the aptitude of this golem puppet. Leaving this aside, That recuperate pearl was definitely something that Qin Wushuang could not have too much of. The recuperate pearl could be said to be tailor-made for Qin Wushuang at his current stage. With this recuperate pearl, he who was at the peak of the common mysterious stage was naturally like a tiger that had grown wings. As for that dragon breath seal, to Qin Wushuang, who possessed the graceful spiritual bow, it did not appear to be that urgent. However, this kind of seal attack that was equivalent to the full power attack of a Supreme Tao elite warrior was definitely a good thing. Giving it to the people around him was definitely a life-saving treasure. As long as he did not meet a Supreme Tao elite warrior with his Dragon Breath seal, it was enough to kill all opponents in a second. Even if he met a Supreme Tao elite warrior, as long as the opportunity was right, taking advantage of the opponent's unpreparedness to launch a surprise attack, it would also be very effective. The harvest of this trip to Qi Wen Dragon City greatly exceeded Qin Wushuang's expectations. Qin Wushuang was fully aware of his special identity and did not stay for too long. After adjusting, he floated away from Qi Wen Dragon City. His goal was very clear. That was the first-rate Dragon Palace. After obtaining the Recuperate Pearl, Qin Wushuang's ambition to break through to the Supreme Tao stage became even more fervent. After leaving the Kissing Dragon City, Qin Wushuang looked at the observant finger jade disc, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He muttered to himself, "This demoness is indeed difficult to deal with. She can actually keep following behind me. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't have any ill intentions, I would have killed her even if she was the princess of the Horned Dragon clan." At first, Qin Wushuang thought it was an old trick like the tracking talisman, but after refining it several times, he found that there was no such thing as a tracking talisman. Could it be that the witch has other methods? Qin Wushuang thought that it would be easy for him to get rid of this witch's tracking, but now it seemed that it was not that easy. It was not a good idea to have a witch follow him all the time. Qin Wushuang decided to wait for the witch to catch up to him before laying all his cards on the table. 3 days later, they arrived at the edge of the Luo River abyss. Qin Wushuang looked at the surrounding terrain and felt that it was very suitable. He decided to pretend to cultivate and wait for the witch to come to him. Mi Jia was the princess of the Horned Dragon clan. Sure enough, she had a secret technique to follow Qin Wushuang. Seeing Qin Wushuang suddenly stop, she was taken aback. She pondered and said, "This guy must be going in a closed-door cultivation. I'll go and give him a scare." "Humph, I can't beat you in a fight, but do you think I can't beat you in a game?" Mi Jia stamped her feet, and her figure moved quickly. Not long after, she came to Qin Wushuang's surroundings. She was just thinking about how to deal with Qin Wushuang. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in front of her. A stream of water rolled into a straight line, like a big spear, and directly pierced over with an extremely turbulent momentum. Mi Jia was taken aback. Without even thinking, her body rolled along with the stream of water and conveniently stepped on the wave under her feet. Just as she was feeling suspicious, Qin Wushuang's figure flashed and appeared in front of her. "Miss Mi Jia, I don't know what method you're using to follow me, but I'm a person who really needs a sense of security. If Miss Mi Jia continues to make me feel uneasy, then I'll have no choice but to use a thunderous force to eradicate the threat." At first, Mi Jia was still a little surprised. Then, she became mischievous and said, "What? You're a big man. Are you going to bully a weak girl like me?" Qin Wushuang was angry and amused at the same time. "Do you think you look like a weak girl from head to toe?" Mi Jia laughed mischievously and said, "I can't beat you, so I'm a weak girl. Do you understand?" Qin Wushuang was speechless. This woman was indeed difficult to deal with. If you tried to reason with her, she would pester you. If you fell out with her, she would smile mischievously. Qin Wushuang kept a straight face and asked with an indifferent tone, "Miss Mi Jia, do you really think that I won't be rough with you? Are you going to be rough? Come, since I can't beat you, you can bully me however you want." Mi Jia revealed a strange smile and spoke with a tone as if she was ready to be trampled on. Upon seeing Qin Wushuang's gloomy face, this Mi Jia let out a leisurely smile. She flicked the bangs on her forehead and said with a cheerful tone, All right, I won't tease you anymore. Qin Wushuang, let's put it this way, I want to work with you. Work together? Qin Wushuang said with a frown. He truly could not understand why he would want to work with this sorceress. Additionally, this sorceress did not have the slightest trace of seriousness. Who knew what crazy thing she would do in the next moment? Yes, from what I know, the elite warriors of the other forbidden spiritual zones have already entered the endless eastern sea to form a net-like search for you. Once this inescapable net is formed, don't you feel that you are in great danger? Qin Wushuang laughed proudly and said, Inescapable net? I am only afraid that they will not come. If they come, I will make them unable to leave one by one. Mi Jia clicked her tongue and gave a long sigh. Such a big tone. It seems that with your tone, even elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Tao stage are clay sculptures before you, right? Qin Wushuang remained silent. Elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Tao stage. For the 5 forbidden spiritual zones, besides the totem powerhouses, only those first-rate sects had 1 or 2 elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Tao stage. In total, there would not be more than 50 of them. For those at the genuine Supreme Tao stage, there would be even fewer. If 1 or 2 of them were to come, Qin Wushuang was confident that he could deal with them. However, if a large group of Transformation Supreme Tao stage warriors were to suppress him, indeed it would be unbearable. Not to mention the Transformation Supreme Tao stage. Even if 3 or 4 of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage appeared and formed an encirclement to Qin Wushuang, it would be an incredibly dangerous matter. After all, although the graceful spiritual bow was powerful, it was not omnipotent. As for elite warriors of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage, the graceful spiritual bow could kill 1 or 2 of them, but did not mean that it could wipe them all out. Seeing that Qin Wushuang remained silent, Mi Jia said slowly, All right, I admit that in the beginning, I came to find you with hostility. However, after realizing that your strength is not an undeserved reputation, my hostility has been decreasing continuously. Do you believe it? Qin Wushuang snorted softly. If it was not for the fact that you had no hostility, how could I have allowed you to track me here? Mi Jia laughed and said leisurely, I heard that someone is extremely cold to his enemies, but is especially tolerant to girls. Sure enough, it is true. Qin Wushuang said indifferently. Among the people that I am tolerant to, it seems that you are not included. You say one thing and mean another. Mi Jia shook her small fists and straightened her proud chest. Could it be that I am not comparable to your little sister Murong or little sister Rulin? You followed me here to talk about this nonsense. Haha, someone is afraid to face it. Yes, then let's not talk about this. Kid Wushuang, I am asking you, are you interested in cooperating? That will depend on your sincerity. I am rarely this sincere. Do you think I am very free? Mi Jia asked back. Let's put it this way. I can help you analyze the enemy situation and use the intelligence-gathering ability of the Horned Dragon clan. However, you must help me with one thing. What is it? Accompany me to the eastern polar region. What? Qin Wushuang opened his eyes widely. Why are we going to that place? Just tell me, do you have the guts to go? Mi Jia asked provocatively. Whether I have the guts or not, it will depend on whether your bargaining chip is enough to move me. Also, you must tell me what you're going to do at the eastern polar region. I can guarantee that with my intelligence-gathering ability, I can guarantee that you will not be surrounded and killed at the endless eastern sea. Additionally, at the crucial moment, even if you encounter an elite warrior of the Transformation Supreme Tao stage, you can turn misfortune into fortune. Is this bargaining chip enough? Not enough. Qin Wushuang shook his head resolutely. He had the graceful spiritual bow and the Heaven Escape book. Even when facing the siege of a Transformation Supreme Tao warrior, he could use the Heaven Escape book to retreat. Kid, are you arrogant and conceited, or are you seeking death? Mi Jia raised her brow and reprimanded with a delicate voice. If you don't have any other bargaining chips, I will not accompany you. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Mi Jia stopped and clenched her silver teeth secretly. She asked angrily, Such a bastard. All right, tell me, what bargaining chip do you want? Could it be you want me to repay you with my body? Thank you, I don't dare to ask for your body, Qin Wushuang said. Tell me first, what do you want to do at the eastern polar region? I'm going to find something. Mi Jia bit her lips lightly and was also somewhat hesitant. What is it? Qin Wushuang said leisurely. Since you want to cooperate, you must have sincerity. Let me see your sincerity first. All right, it's all right to tell you. I'm going to the rushing current valley to find that scarlet fire, to condense the fire's soul. Kid Wushuang, if I have the scarlet fire, even if you have the graceful spiritual bow, you will definitely not be able to defeat me. Do you believe me? Mi Jia shook her fist and asked, what a meaningless assumption. Qin Wushuang smiled contemptuously and muttered, however, the scarlet fire, does the rushing current valley have it? Ha, other places might have it, but the scarlet fire in the rushing current valley is definitely the purest. It can burn everything. Mi Jia was filled with a fascinated expression. Qin Wushuang narrowed his eyes into a line. You have been to the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon, right? Mi Jia was stunned. How did you know? Qin Wushuang snorted coldly. Did those two guys from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon tell you? Tell me what? Tell me you used the Supreme Dao armor to exchange for a batch of things? That's right, Kid Wushuang. You are really an idiot. Using the Supreme Dao armor to exchange for those lousy things, you are really letting them off easy. When Mi Jia said this, her tone also became excited. Qin Wushuang was confused. Seeing that Mi Jia did not seem to be lying, he was somewhat hesitant. If he could obtain the scarlet fire in the rushing current valley, that place was worth a visit. Moreover, Qin Wushuang felt that the rushing current valley was very similar to the mythology era in his previous life. There was also the Golden Crow. Then, how could the rushing current valley not have something like the hibiscus wood? The scarlet fire, the hibiscus wood, these were two things that Qin Wushuang urgently needed. There are still 4 more chapters tonight. I will never owe you. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 752. Seeing Qin Wushuang's perplexed expression, Mi Jia seemed to have realized something and asked stutteringly, could it be that those two bastards from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon lied to me? They told you that I used the Supreme Dao armor to exchange for their things? What did they exchange for? They exchanged for something like the Recuperate Pearl, the Fish Dragon Iron Bone, and the Dragon Breath Seal. The Recuperate Pearl can only deceive people like you who are below the Supreme Dao stage. To me, it's super rubbish. As for the Fish Dragon Iron Bone, other than making Supreme Dao weapons, what other fart use does it have? The Dragon's Breath Seal was simply trash. If I'm happy, it's not a problem to give you 8 or 10 scrolls. All right, then I don't mind if you give me 8 or 10 scrolls. Qin Wushuang smiled faintly. Mi Jia was instantly speechless. After a long while, she said with an unbearable tone, you really don't have any manners. Reaching out your hand to ask a girl for things, why don't you give me the graceful spiritual bow? Didn't you say that you would give me 8 or 10 scrolls? Qin Wushuang spread out his hands. That's only if I'm happy. Your current attitude makes me very unhappy. All right, don't talk nonsense. Are you interested in going to the Eastern Polar region together? The Eastern Polar region, you can't go by yourself. Why are you dragging me in? Qin Wushuang was doubtful. It said that those who have the graceful spiritual bow have great fortune. I've always had good luck. Dragging in a person with great fortune can increase my luck. Besides, it's rumored that the Golden Crow has been reborn in the rushing current valley. Since you have the graceful spiritual bow, you can learn from the immemorial great god E. At the crucial moment, you can block it. Mi Jia was frank and did not conceal anything. Qin Wushuang said unhappily, so you want me to be a human shield? Mi Jia laughed mischievously and said, don't worry. It's impossible for us to be so unlucky in the surrounding million miles of the rushing current valley. Let's not talk about whether the rumor about the Golden Crow is true. Even if it's true, can we bump into it in the surrounding million miles? Our luck can't be that bad, right? Having said that, Qin Wushuang did not have any doubts about Mi Jia's motive. Additionally, the suggestion of this unruly woman was somewhat attractive. To Qin Wushuang, advancing to the Supreme Tao stage was already a matter of success when the conditions were right. After entering the Supreme Tao stage, Qin Wushuang would be the most urgent matter. If he were to use the power of the Divine Soul to control the golem puppet, it would not be impossible for it to possess the same combat power as the main body. Therefore, Qin Wushuang looked forward to the golem puppet greatly. By that time, he would not be alone. Hey, stop dilly-dallying. Can you or not? Mi Jia asked impatiently. Not to me, to me, to you, to me, to be. To you, to me, I, not I, and I, me. To him, to him, to him, to him, to say. To him, to be, not to be, to him. It to him, not to him, to not to him. To him. Therefore, Qin Wushuang would raise the price and strive to earn more benefits. What do you want? Just say it. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang loosening his tone, she immediately seized the opportunity to speak. Besides what you said, 10 scrolls of dragon breath seal. Also, I have a presumptuous request. Presumptuous request. Mi Jia showed an alert face. What do you want? Look at you. I am not interested in you. Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes. Since you have entered the Supreme Tao stage, I want you to do me a favor. What favor, tell me? Mi Jia appeared to be easy to talk to. I have a divine dragon egg. Most likely, only an elite warrior of the Supreme Tao stage of the Dragon Clan can incubate it with the dragon breath. Therefore, I want to ask you for a favor. Mi Jia laughed with a puff sound. You want me to be a wet nurse? You don't seem to be a wet nurse, right? It's just an incubation. Mi Jia said with a beaming smile. You also have a time to ask me for a favor. All right, I will reluctantly do it. However, you're not allowed to tell anyone about this matter. Otherwise, I will not let you off. Who should I tell? Qin Wushuang said innocently. That's a lot. Sumia the Coiled Dragon Clan. That naughty girl. You're not allowed to tell anyone. Do you understand? Don't worry, I'm not that talkative. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Just these conditions? Mi Jia asked. Just these. Why? You still think it's not enough? Qin Wushuang asked with a faint smile. This is still not enough? Don't be too greedy. Mi Jia was going crazy. Qin Wushuang took out the egg of the demonic dragon. Suddenly, a strong ancient aura caused a very ancient aura to appear in the surroundings. Where did you steal this? Mi Jia's eyes lit up at once. Don't speak so unpleasantly, all right? Tell me, how many days can you finish it? I can't guarantee this. What if the little guy inside is unwilling to come out after a long time? I will do my best. However, you must protect me. Or else, after I consume my dragon breath, it would be troublesome if a powerful enemy comes. Of course, I'm not someone who doesn't value the code of brotherhood, right? That's hard to say. Mi Jia said with a snort. Follow me, I will take you to a place. Qin Wushuang had never thought that he would form an alliance with this sorceress. Indeed, the affairs of the world were unpredictable. However, he must admit that this sorceress did have some skills. Indeed, at this endless eastern sea, she was like a fish in water. After 7 days, the two of them arrived at a desolate place. Mi Jia said, Let's do it here. I will say it again, protect me obediently. You are not allowed to peek. Don't be so smug. If you succeed, I will accompany you to the rushing current valley. If not, forgive me for not accompanying you. Mi Jia clenched her pink fists. Don't worry. When I step out, I will guarantee your success. Qin Wushuang nodded and followed Mi Jia with his eyes as she entered the chosen place. Qin Wushuang took out the sealed scroll and only summoned the 4 spiritual beasts at the exquisite mysterious boundary stage. As soon as that swallowing sky lion dragon came out, instantly he became energetic. Endless Eastern Sea. Master, you must let us come out to play more at this endless Eastern Sea. Dark mysterious snake also gave a long sigh. Truly absent-minded, I didn't expect that we could return to the endless Eastern Sea alive. Qin Wushuang felt somewhat sympathetic to this sealed spiritual beast. After all, it was an undeserved disaster. A good spiritual beast was sealed into the scroll and lost its freedom. You two don't need to be sad. When I can break the seal, I will certainly help you regain your freedom. Swallowing Sky, Lion Dragon, and Dark Mysterious Snake were endlessly grateful. Master, if you can restore our freedom in this lifetime, we will still be your contract spiritual beasts and will never betray you. Ha. When I restore your freedom, I never thought of tying you down. Swallowing Sky, Lion Dragon said with gratitude, Master, it's rare for a human martial artist to have someone as benevolent and righteous as you. Although it's tragic that we were sealed, there was no other way. Qin Wushuang asked curiously, just who was the one that sealed you guys? Swallowing Sky, Lion Dragon, and Dark Mysterious Snake both revealed a somewhat ashamed expression as they shook their heads. We don't even know who he is. However, we do know that before him, we did not have any power to resist. His power did not seem to belong to this world. With a casual move of his finger, he seemed to be able to move mountains and seas and stir up the heavens and earth. Qin Wushuang knew that most likely the person that sealed them was the owner of the 7 deadly arrays formation. However, these sealed spiritual beasts did not know who had sealed them. It was apparent how mysterious the owner of the 7 deadly arrays formation was. This way, it seemed that he could only wait until he entered the 6th loop or even the 7th loop to know the inside story. Casting aside these distracting thoughts, Qin Wushuang took out 4 scrolls of Dragon Breath Seal and said, The 4 of you are my right-hand men and have contributed greatly. These 4 scrolls of Dragon Breath Seal are the strongest Dragon Breath attacks of the Supreme Tao Dragon. At critical moments, they can be used to save your life. Each of you will have 1 scroll. Do not use it unless it is a matter of life and death. The 4 sealed spiritual beasts were all overjoyed as they received the scrolls. All right, follow my instructions. Each of you will guard a position. Once there are any abnormal movements, immediately respond. Qin Wushuang ordered, with the 4 sealed spiritual beasts guarding the periphery and him providing support in the inner layer. Although it could not be said that it was impregnable, it would not be much of a problem to deal with ordinary disturbances. During the 3 days, Qin Wushuang cultivated with the Recuperate Pearl while observing all the movements. Feeling the wonders of the Recuperate Pearl, Qin Wushuang secretly sighed. This business was really profitable. This Recuperate Pearl actually allowed his cultivation to progress by leaps and bounds. In terms of speed, it actually increased by 3 to 4 times. It greatly exceeded the effect of the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon Yun Kang's introduction. Qin Wushuang knew that this Recuperate Pearl was so effective for him. Most likely it was because he was blessed by the Supreme Tao baptism. If it was not, because he already had the foundation of the Supreme Tao in his body, this Recuperate Pearl would definitely not be so useful. While he was thinking, he suddenly heard Mi Jia's delicate cry. Then, a red light accompanied by the purple gas rose up in a crisscross pattern. The mist rose up densely and was filled with a mysterious aura. Little guy, you are finally willing to come out. Mi Jia appeared to be somewhat exhausted. She cried out weakly, Little Wushuang, get over here. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed and rushed in. He saw a dragon beast the size of a fox emitting purple gas all over its body. It rolled its quick-witted eyes and was filled with curiosity at the surroundings. When it saw Qin Wushuang, it was stunned at first. Then, it pounced on him with boundless joy, as if a child had seen its mother. Even Mi Jia was stunned. She muttered and scolded, Little heartless, I spent so much energy to hatch you. And in the blink of an eye, you don't want to admit it? That little dragon beast rubbed against Qin Wushuang's body intimately. It was calling something, Chanair, Chanair. When Mi Jia heard this, she could not help but laugh. Due to her weakness, and this laugh was too sudden, she kept coughing. Qin Wushuang was already used to this witch's style. When he saw her laughing for no reason, he was not surprised. Do you know what it said? Mi Jia asked while laughing. What? Qin Wushuang's scalp was somewhat numb. It called you daddy. Mi Jia pulled a long face and said in deadly earnest, Qin Wushuang, which female dragon did you have illicit relations with? You even have a baby dragon. Qin Wushuang was dumbstruck. This was simply a bolt from the blue. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 753. With his eyes wide open, Qin Wushuang stared at Mi Jia carefully. Obviously, he wanted to see if she was playing tricks on him again. Although Mi Jia's expression was strange, it did not seem like she was lying. Qin Wushuang was very proficient in the beast language. However, the dragon race was the king of the beast race and had a unique dragon language. This was something that he could not understand. That baby dragon rubbed against Qin Wushuang's chest for a while before hugging Qin Wushuang's neck. It was just like a spoiled child. It was still calling out, Chun Air, Chun Air. Qin Wushuang was baffled. Could it be that the pronunciation of Chun Air meant father in the dragon language? Just as he was hesitating, that baby dragon opened its mouth and turned to look at Mi Jia. It called out again, Ai Simo, Ai Simo. Mi Jia was dumbfounded at once. A string of dragon language came out from her mouth. Together with her expression, it was as if she was scolding the baby dragon. That baby dragon was speechless. It winked at Mi Jia with a very unhappy look. Qin Wushuang made a hand gesture and released a seal summon. Those 4 spiritual beasts rushed over one after another. Qin Wushuang said to Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon, Swallowing Sky, come over. Let me ask you, are you proficient in the dragon language? Master, I am from the dragon race. Of course, I am proficient in the dragon language. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon answered. While sizing up Mi Jia, its eyes revealed traces of worship. Your Excellency, divine beast of the dragon race, Swallowing Sky is here to pay respects. Mi Jia snorted and glared at Swallowing Sky. Don't talk nonsense. Swallowing Sky, what does Chun Air mean in the dragon language? Qin Wushuang asked. That is father's idea. Swallowing Sky answered honestly. Qin Wushuang was stunned. It was indeed father's idea. Since when did he become the father of this baby dragon? Mi Jia said with a smile that was not a smile. Boy Wushuang, do you still not want to admit it? Quickly tell me the truth. Which female dragon did you have an affair with? TSK. What a powerful female dragon. She was a divine beast the moment she was born. Could it be a primordial divine dragon? Young Wushuang, you're so strong. Even the immemorial divine dragon was conquered by you. That baby dragon shouted at Mi Jia. Ai Simo, Ai Simo. Mi Jia was driven mad on the spot. She roared, Don't call me that. The sky-devouring lion dragon was at a loss. He looked at the baby dragon, then at Mi Jia, and then at Qin Wushuang. He asked curiously, Master, is it true that this baby dragon calls this lady mother? Judging from her aura, this young lady should be from the Horned Dragon clan, right? This dragon baby did not seem to belong to the 9 true dragon clans, but it did not seem to belong to the 9 true dragon clans either. Strange. Michael roared, Stinky bitch, didn't I tell you not to talk nonsense? Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon said, Young lady of the Horned Dragon clan, I dare not answer my master's question. Qin Wushuang curled his lips and said to Long Bao, Little fellow, don't randomly shout. She has such a bad temper. How could she be your mother? Also, I am not your father, understand? That baby dragon blinked its eyes as if it understood, yet not fully. There were some traces of grievance in its expression as it looked at Qin Wushuang anxiously. Its little appearance would make one's heart ache. Mi Jia put her hands on her tiny waist and cried out, Young Wushuang, what do you mean? You are saying that I have a bad temper in front of me. Are you slapping my face? Could it be that you have a good temper? Mi Jia said leisurely, My temper is not good. However, only I am allowed to do it, and you are not allowed to say it. Understand? Qin Wushuang patted that baby dragon lightly and chuckled. Anyways, I will not lower myself to your level. This time you have worked hard. Thank you. Mi Jia gave a snort. This is more like something a human would say. Then, she shot a glance at the sky-devouring lion dragon and the other spiritual beasts. Young Wushuang, you are good. All the spiritual beasts of the endless eastern sea have been subdued by you. Qin Wushuang laughed and did not speak a word. As he caressed that baby dragon, he felt extremely regretful. It would have been great if the other phantom dragon egg was also here. He could have let me Jia hatch it in one breath. It would be a pity if he did not use the free labor. Seeing your weak appearance, let's rest for a few days, Qin Wushuang said. Mi Jia gave a snort. At least you did not burn the bridge after crossing the river. Of course I will rest. However, you must explain clearly where you got this divine dragon egg. It seems there is no need to explain this, right? Mi Jia said, if you don't want to die, it's best to explain clearly. Regardless of the true 9 dragon clans or the non-traditional 9 dragon clans, it's impossible for a newborn baby dragon to enter the supreme Tao stage directly. The bloodline of this dragon beast is extremely pure. Even the forefather dragon clan may not guarantee that each bloodline will enter the supreme Tao stage directly. What about it? Qin Wushuang disapproved. What about it? Tell me honestly, did you steal it from the forefather dragon clan? If that's the case, then you are doomed. When Mi Jia said this, her expression also became somewhat solemn. There were traces of fear flashing across her eyes. Qin Wushuang shrugged. You have a rich imagination. This baby dragon is not related to the endless eastern sea. This way you can rest assured, right? Mi Jia finally felt relieved as she caressed her chest. That's good, or else you'll be doomed. Once the forefather dragon clan sets their eyes on you, I cannot save you. When she said this, Mi Jia was still somewhat worried. By the way, don't blame me for not reminding you, this baby dragon, you must not show off too much. In case the elite warriors of the dragon clan set their eyes on you, it's possible for them to develop covetous intentions. At that time, as a father, you can only watch as your obedient son is snatched away by someone else. Most likely, they will kill your father along the way, Mi Jia added, as if rejoicing in others' misfortune. Qin Wushuang cast away the corner of his mouth. Can't you say something more auspicious? Clearly, Mi Jia was rather interested in this baby dragon as she probed. Young Wushuang, let me discuss something with you. What? When Qin Wushuang saw her eyes, he asked with vigilance. Lend me your baby dragon to play with for 2 days. By the way, I can teach you to speak. You don't want to have an idiotic baby dragon, right? Mi Jia asked with a chuckle. Qin Wushuang was not reassured, as he always felt that this woman had ulterior motives. Are you that kind? Mi Jia said with a panting of anger. I just cannot bear to see it become an idiot at your place. All right? Do you know the dragon language? Do you know what it needs? Will you take care of it? Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Put away your line of questioning. Since you want to be a wet nurse so much, I will satisfy you. Little one, that woman wants to be your wet nurse. Do you agree? The baby dragon was still blinking its eyes as it looked at Mi Jia with its watery eyes. It was somewhat vigilant. Clearly, it was still somewhat conflicted with Mi Jia's action of berating it just now. Mi Jia was like a suspect of kidnapping a child, as she said with an extremely seductive tone. Little one, let me play with you. We all have noble dragon bloodline. The baby dragon stuck out its little, but swayed its tail proudly a few times at Mi Jia. Then, it scuttled onto Qin Wushuang's shoulder and made a few funny faces at Mi Jia. When Qin Wushuang saw this, he laughed. Miss Mi Jia, look, your fierceness has scared it. It is still a little conflicted with you. You want to be a wet nurse, but it won't even give you the chance. Mi Jia said angrily. It's all your fault for speaking ill of me. It seems that I have to slowly nurture a relationship with it. Humph, young Wushuang, just you wait. I will definitely succeed in seizing your pet. Qin Wushuang turned around and said to Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon, Swallowing Sky, you're also from the Dragon Clan. You will be in charge of being its first teacher. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon was overwhelmed by the favor. Master, how would I dare to be its first teacher? It's a supreme Tao Dragon beast. Little Master, Qin Wushuang almost fainted. It seemed that he really had to give this little one a name, or else it might really get the wrong idea. What name should he give it? That's right, Miss Mi Jia. Is this little one the same gender as you or me? Qin Wushuang was really uncertain about the gender of this baby dragon. Mi Jia shouted angrily, "Can't you see for yourself?" As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately felt that something was not right. She laughed with a puff, and her face was crimson red. This question was originally nothing, but when she thought about it in a complicated way, she felt that it was very ambiguous. It's a girl. It was still Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon that helped her out. Oh, a girl. What name should I give her? Qin Wushuang muttered. Let's call her AI Simo, Mi Jia said. Many girls from the Dragon Clan have this nickname. Isn't that what mother means? Mi Jia said angrily. That can also be used as a nickname. Qin Wushuang looked at Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon suspiciously. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon's face was slightly red as it nodded and said, "There is such a saying." Qin Wushuang did not understand the dragon language and was at a loss. He could only go with the flow. Then let's call her AI Simo. That baby dragon seemed to know that it had a name. It rubbed against Qin Wushuang's head twice and stretched its waist, looking like it was celebrating. With the appearance of this little one, Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon's life immediately became rich. Although Mi Jia was recovering her strength, she could not help but come over to tease this little one from time to time. Obviously, borrowing her dragon breath to hatch AI Simo also made Mi Jia's maternal instincts unknowingly overflow. A demoness suddenly emitting a kind of radiance of maternal love made Qin Wushuang feel very strange. And Mi Jia also had an excuse to mock Qin Wushuang from then on. She would ask Qin Wushuang which female dragon had an ill-fated relationship with when she had nothing to do. Qin Wushuang could only ask the heavens speechlessly. And no matter how much effort Swallowing Sky Lion and Mi Jia put in, AI Simo was still the closest to Qin Wushuang. This made Mi Jia very jealous. A sour feeling turned into endless complaints and ridicule. Qin Wushuang was used to it and simply turned a deaf ear. Swallowing Sky, tell me, why does AI Simo call me daddy? Qin Wushuang could not help but ask. Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon said in surprise, Boss, I also find it strange. At first, I did not understand. But these few days, didn't you feel it? I seem to have sensed a powerful dragon aura in your body. It is of the same origin as AI Simo's dragon breath. Boss, this AI Simo, could it really be? Qin Wushuang flatly denied. There is no such thing. You said its breath is of the same origin as mine? Yes. Only then did Qin Wushuang come to a realization. It must be like this. Qin Wushuang thought of the coiling dragon palace in the Black Dead Sea, of the floating snow house, and the encounter in the dragon cave. Yes, it must be like that. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support legal reading. Chapter 754. Even Mi Jia looked at Qin Wushuang with a somewhat different gaze in these few days. Clearly, Mi Jia had also grasped the so-called dragon presence of the Swallowing Sky Lion. After resting for 7 days, Mi Jia had finally recovered and the group was ready to depart. If they were to travel in a hurry, the Swallowing Sky Lion Dragon could only enter the seal, or else it would certainly affect their speed. The great responsibility of taking care of AI Simo could only fall on Mi Jia's head. This made Mi Jia feel as if her scheme had succeeded. She shot a threatening glance at Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang mumbled, Don't teach AI Simo your sorceress ways. Mi Jia said with a leisurely smile, This little one is calling me mother. As her mother, I can teach her however I want. Humph! AI Simo is untainted. She will not be led astray by you. Mi Jia roared with laughter. Wrong, wrong. My goal is to nurture her into the future number 1 sorceress of the Dragon Clan. People will hide when they see her, flowers will wither when they see her, grass will not grow when she walks past, and the bridges she passes will collapse immediately. Qin Wushuang knew that most likely, even if the heavens were struck by lightning, it would not stop Mi Jia's ambition to train AI Simo. Although he had said it verbally, in fact, he was not against it. With such a supreme Dao Dragon Beast, it would be a good choice to train with Mi Jia's crazy style. In the future, she would be a great helper if she were to be nurtured into a strange and incomparably valiant dragon beast. Thinking here, Qin Wushuang waved his hand and said, "After being delayed for so many days, we must hurry." Haha, what's the rush? Didn't you want to see the forefather dragon clan of the first-rate dragon palace? Let me tell you, when we get there, certainly we will see people of the forefather dragon clan. Do you believe me? Qin Wushuang did not doubt that the forefather dragon clan had issued the 9 dragon order and gathered the 18 dragon clans for an emergency meeting to deal with the changes at the eastern polar region. When they went to the eastern polar region, it was certain that they would meet the forefather dragon clan. However, Qin Wushuang was also somewhat worried. Currently, the forefather dragon clan was in a terrible fix. Would they have the leisure to interfere with the matters of the Xian Yuan Mound? It was useless to think too much. Now, he could only take one step at a time. Qin Wushuang spurred himself on and thought inwardly. Regardless of whether the forefather dragon clan will step out or not, what I need to do is to increase my strength. If I can keep increasing my strength in these dozen years, with a graceful spiritual bow and the bloodline of the immemorial phantom dragon, it's not impossible for me to return to the Xian Yuan Mound. Relying on the heavens, relying on the earth, relying on other people, none of them are reliable. Only oneself is the most reliable. Qin Wushuang's heart surged with a sense of heroism. Not long after they walked, Mi Jia suddenly laughed. "Young Wushuang, you are very popular now, do you know? If you have something to say, just say it." Qin Wushuang snapped. Now across the entire endless eastern sea, 17 or 18 of the 20 abyss have a bounty for your head. For the elite warriors from different major forbidden spiritual zones, at least hundreds of people had entered the endless eastern sea. Each of them were elite warriors of the supreme Dao stage. This does not include the elite warriors of the Dragon Clan at the endless eastern sea. Qin Wushuang said lightly, "What about it? Aren't I still living well?" Mi Jia said with a leisurely smile, "Say, if I secretly report you, when I get this bounty, will I count until my hands cramp? You won't. I promise you, you won't even have the chance to count," Qin Wushuang said coldly. "Ha ha, you are too lacking in manners. You can't take a joke." Mi Jia appeared to be overflowing with love as she caressed AI Simo. She laughed. "Regardless, you are AI Simo's father. We cannot let our child be fatherless at a young age, right? Don't worry, I will not report you. Don't put on that ghostly look." Qin Wushuang let out a sigh of relief. For this sorceress, a few words from her could make one feel anxious. If she were to truly report him in secret and expose his whereabouts, it would be truly troublesome. Just when he was about to speak, suddenly, his expression changed slightly as he glared at Mi Jia. "You still say you didn't betray me? What do you mean?" Mi Jia was baffled. Qin Wushuang stared at the valley in front of him. "Don't act dumb." Mi Jia's expression also changed slightly. She operated her dragon breath and sensed slightly. Then, she reprimanded, "Who is it? Sneaking around, come out." Qin Wushuang sneered and did not speak. However, he held his breath with rapt attention and pulled some distance away from Mi Jia. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's little action, her expression sank even more. She said stutteringly, "Do you really think that it was me who attracted them? The innocent knows that they are innocent." Qin Wushuang said indifferently. His gaze was deep as he looked over. Obviously, there were at least 4 to 5 Supreme Dao elite warriors in front of him, and they were all experts of the Dragon Clan. All of them had different auras of the Dragon Clan. Mi Jia bit her lips and transmitted her voice. "Little Wushuang, I said before that I did not betray you. It's up to you to believe it or not." Qin Wushuang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. "Don't be in a hurry to explain. Think about how to get rid of these uninvited guests." As he was speaking, 5 great lights burst forth from the opposite side at the same time. Like 5 long rainbows, They shot into the sky, drew a beautiful arc, and landed not far in front of Mijia. Miss Mijia, long time no see. TSK, TSK. The princess of the Horned Dragon clan is getting sexier. When Mijia saw these people, a hint of surprise and fear flashed across her beautiful face. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wushuang. These 5 fellows are all experts of the Dragon Clan who have been famous for a long time. 2 of them are from the Winged Dragon Clan, 2 are from the Flood Dragon Clan, and the last one is from the Hornless Dragon Clan. Qin Wushuang was secretly on guard. He nodded slightly, but did not answer. These 5 people said with a faint smile, "Miss Mijia, we have been waiting here for a long time." Mijia said indifferently, "I don't seem to have any interactions with you, right? You don't have to wait. If you have something to say, just say it. If not, make way." TSK, TSK. They all say that the little witch of the Horned Dragon clan is hard to please and disdains men. Why is there a pretty boy by your side this time? And it seems that he even has a doll. Mijia's face turned cold. "Do you believe that I will pull out your tongue?" Haha. Miss Mijia, it's still useful to use these words to scare others. It seems that it's not enough to scare us brothers. Mijia also knew that these few people were all supreme Dao elite warriors. Moreover, they were not people of her generation. For a moment, she could not figure out their intentions. "All right, Miss Mijia, us brothers still respect your Horned Dragon clan very much. We are all people of the 9 true dragon clans. There's no need to fall out with us. Today, as long as you don't interfere and hand that kid over to us, you can leave now." A guy with a big nose whose whole body was covered in green scales said. Qin Wushuang sneered and thought, "It's here. What should be here is finally here." Don't look at Mijia's usual crazy behavior. At this moment, she was incredibly calm. She asked with a straight face, "You want to keep him? Do you know who he is?" Haha. If I've guessed correctly, he should be some stray dog that escaped from the Xianyuan Mount, right? That guy with green scales said. Mijia shouted, "Clean your mouth. It's hard to say who is the stray dog. I was wondering why you guys gathered together. It seems that you want to join hands to seize that graceful spiritual bow." Miss Mijia, so you also want that graceful spiritual bow? Very good. Everyone has the same goal. You should stand on our side. Mijia said with a cold sneer. "I think you guys are blind. With your little eyesight, you are still looking for the graceful spiritual bow. Could it be that you can't see that this person is an elite warrior of our dragon clan?" Elite warrior of the dragon clan? That guy with green scales was stunned. "Don't joke around. Our information is accurate. Miss Mijia, don't think that your Horned Dragon clan's information network is powerful. Our information network is also not weak." Along the way, you have stayed at the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon and investigated a person. It should be this person before us, right? Now, who doesn't know that Qin Wushuang has been to the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon? Qin Wushuang felt apprehensive inwardly. Indeed, it was that treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon that exposed a flaw. Qin Wushuang secretly cursed those 2 guys from the treasure pavilion of Fairy Dragon. They spoke in a dignified manner, saying that there were business rules and they would not disclose the information of their customers. Then they sold them out. Mijia chuckled and said with a disdainful tone, "Truly an incorrigible idiot. Even if you can't recognize him, you should be able to feel the dragon breath from his body, right?" When Qin Wushuang heard these words, he was moved inwardly. Faintly discernible, he emitted a wave of faint dragon breath. As soon as this dragon breath overflowed, instantly the complexion of those 5 people changed. They looked at each other in dismay and revealed a face full of confusion. According to their information, this person followed Mijia. Most likely, he should be that Qin Wushuang. However, how could he emit the dragon breath? Could it be that they had truly recognized the wrong person? This person was an elite warrior of the dragon clan. That guy in cyan armor was half convinced and half doubtful. The information was accurate, yet the current situation clearly made them feel confused. If he was truly the Qin Wushuang, how could he emit the dragon breath? They had never heard of the Qin disciple of the Heavenly Emperor Mountain having any relationship with the dragon clan. Another person asked with an indifferent tone, Miss Mi Jia, could it be that you have already merged? Your dragon breath has merged with his body, right? Instantly, half of Mi Jia's face turned red. She scolded, "Don't you have eyes? Not to mention that I am still a virgin. My dragon breath is completely different from his. Are you blind? Can you not see it?" That person sensed slightly, and indeed, there was such a matter. These five were all elite warriors of the Supreme Dao stage. When they sensed the presence emitted by Qin Wushuang, they felt apprehensive inwardly. When they looked at Qin Wushuang's eyes, instantly they became somewhat nervous. What a pure primordial aura this was. For such dragon breath, even many disciples of the forefather dragon clan did not possess it. Just where did this young man come from? How could he possess such an ancient presence of the dragon clan? Could it be the inheritance of the immemorial bloodline? As Qin Wushuang looked at these five supreme Dao warriors, he felt apprehensive inwardly. If he were to tear off all pretenses and fight 1 against 5, or 2 against 5, his chances of winning would not be great. These 5 people were different from Mi Jia. They were at least at the 3rd or 4th calamity of the coagulate supreme Dao stage. It'd be alright if there were 1 or 2 of them. However, with 5 of them at the same time, even with the graceful spiritual bow, it would be difficult to win. In the worst case, he would be in danger of being besieged. Therefore, he restrained himself and would not act out for the time being. Instead, he used the power of the immemorial phantom dragon to keep emitting it to form a continuous sense of oppression. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chijian.com. More chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 755. Those 5 people were supreme Dao experts after all. They were experienced and knowledgeable. Although they felt that the matter was a little strange and doubtful, they didn't have much fear. "Miss Mi Jia, you said that he's not Qin Wushuang. Then who is he?" Mi Jia sneered and said, "I'm afraid that after I tell you, at least half of you here will die." "Oh, such a big name? A disciple of the ancestral dragon tribe? I won't say anything. If you feel that you're strong enough, then go ahead and offend me. I guarantee that after I tell you, there will definitely be blood splattered within 5 steps of you." Those 5 people were a little afraid. They sized up Qin Wushuang and were hesitating whether they should shed all pretense of cordiality or not. Qin Wushuang asked leisurely, "You want to know my identity, right?" Those 5 people narrowed their eyes and looked at Qin Wushuang. Obviously, they didn't deny it. Their gazes were fixed on Qin Wushuang with some valiance. Just like what Miss Mi Jia said, if you want to know, you must be prepared to die. Mi Jia also secretly admired this Qin Wushuang. In this kind of situation, this person acted as if nothing had happened and didn't care about the danger at all. This psychological quality was indeed good. That guy with cyan scales said, "No matter what your identity is, we can only offend you today. If it wasn't for that Qin Wushuang, we'll take it that we've offended you. We'll definitely apologize to you. This is called better to kill 1,000 by mistake than to let 1 go by mistake." As soon as these words were spoken, the other 4 nodded their heads one after another. With someone taking the lead, the others naturally gained courage and became more confident. There were 5 of them. In this place where there was no village ahead and no shop behind, once a conflict broke out, it wasn't impossible to destroy the corpses and destroy the evidence. So what if his origin was unknown? So what if he was from a horned dragon tribe? In front of absolute benefits, everything was fleeting clouds. Unless he was a disciple of the ancestral dragon tribe. Mi Jia said angrily, "You 5 are really audacious. In that case, you're definitely going to intercept him today, right?" "Miss Mi Jia, we've already said that there's nothing for you here. If you want to leave, we won't stop you. If he wants to leave, we will not stop him as long as he can show us evidence that we are convinced of." Mi Jia nodded and walked towards Qin Wushuang. She said, "In that case, you won't give up until you show some evidence." Even though he said that, he sent a telepathic message. "Come close to me, and I'll use a secret technique to take you away." Qin Wushuang was actually prepared to shed all pretenses of cordiality. After hearing Mi Jia's words, he was no longer in a hurry. If he could avoid conflict, he would not want to slaughter people of the Dragon Clan within the endless Eastern Sea. Miss Mijia, I advise you not to play any tricks. Mijia sneered and said, all of you can die now. Xiaoqin raised his hand, and the whip suddenly danced. A scarlet light that looked like a waterfall suddenly soared. As soon as the light screen appeared, it engulfed Qin Wushuang, Mijia, and AI Simo. With a roll of the light, Qin Wushuang and Mijia seemed to have been drawn into a strange space. The sound of scolding rang out in his ears. Oh no, he's running away. Indeed, this slut is playing tricks. She must have a guilty conscience for doing this. That kid must be Qin Wushuang. Yes, this slut. Does she want to take it all for herself? Amidst the continuous scolding, this burst of power already transported Qin Wushuang and AI Simo to a place a few thousand miles away. Mijia stopped with a pale face. She muttered and swore. Those 5 bastards, they scolded me well. Qin Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. If you don't feel good, then go back and teach them a lesson. Mijia rolled her eyes. I paid such a great price to escape. I going back to throw away my life? Do you really think they are some kind people? Qin Wushuang said with a smile. I didn't expect that sorcerers would have moments of fear. Darn kid, you are burning the bridge after crossing the river. If it weren't for you, I would not have activated my life protection talisman. I only have a few in total. Only then did Qin Wushuang know that what this Mijia used was something similar to the Heaven Escape Tome. It was just that the Heaven Escape Tome might be more domineering and the escape route would be even further. She might be able to escape to at least a few thousand miles away. However, to experts, escaping to a few thousand miles away was basically bidding farewell to danger. Seeing that Qin Wushuang was silent, Mijia muttered, also, don't be smug and think that I'm helping you. I just hate it when people wrongly accuse me. Qin Wushuang knew what she was referring to. He spread out his hands. All right, I've wrongly accused you earlier. Stop it. What's the use of apologizing? I'm just helping you out for AI Simo's sake. AI Simo rubbed against Mijia's face a few times to express her gratitude and intimacy. Only then did Mijia's mood ease a little. All right, little fellow, I know that you are biased towards your cheap father. I'm magnanimous and won't lower myself to his level. Qin Wushuang touched his nose. He knew that he could not provoke this gunpowder barrel at this time. His gaze was blurred as he looked at the direction where they escaped from. He said leisurely, Miss Mijia, those 5 bastards have gone too far. I'm unwilling to leave just like that. What do you want to do? Mijia asked suspiciously when she saw Qin Wushuang's crazed look. I'm thinking that if we turn back and ambush them now and give them a surprise, it would definitely be very satisfying, right? Mijia said angrily. Do you really think that you're invincible? 5 deity realm powerhouses. Can you deal with them? It's not easy to deal with the 5 of them together. However, if the tactics are used well, it's not like there's nothing to be done. Those 5 fellows have the ugly look of an adjudicator. They scolded me well. If I don't vent my anger, how can I make a breakthrough to the Supreme Dao stage? Only then did Mijia realize that Qin Wushuang was not joking. She had always thought that she was crazy. Today, she finally learned that there were people who were crazier than her. If you want to die, then go ahead. She roared in exasperation. Miss Mijia, I'm not speaking out of anger. It's very good that you're leading me to retreat. I'm very grateful. However, under the circumstances at that time, we didn't have the power to fight. That doesn't mean that we don't have the power to fight now. If you're afraid, we can break up the alliance now. I can also handle alone. Mijia said angrily. You can handle it? How? 5 supreme Dao powerhouses. What was he going to do? Even my father doesn't have the confidence to deal with 5 coagulate supreme Dao experts at the same time. Don't forget why they're here. Graceful spiritual bow. Mijia's expression changed in shock. Yes, Qin Wushuang said leisurely. It seems that it's necessary for me to let you see what the power of the graceful spiritual bow is. At that time, in front of you, I left some leeway. Moreover, at that time, My cultivation had yet to enter the peak of the common mysterious realm. Today, if we use the right tactics, I guarantee that it won't be a situation of 2 against 5. If we can kill 1 or 2 of them with a sneak attack, then we'll be fighting 2 against 3. You can kill 2 of them, I'm 90% sure. If it's a sneak attack, Qin Wushuang was full of confidence. Yes, if you can kill 2 of them, then it'll be 3 against 3. Mi Jiao pointed at AI Simo who was in her arms. Don't forget, this cheap daughter of yours is also a supreme Dao expert. Although her power of the supreme Dao has yet to awaken completely, her primordial bloodline is extremely terrifying. Her current combat power is most likely not inferior to mine. Once her primordial bloodline is awakened once, even an 8th tribulation coagulate supreme Dao expert may not be her opponent. So powerful. Qin Wushuang was shocked. AI Simo raised her head with an arrogant look. Her mouth squirmed left and right, looking very confident. Qin Wushuang suddenly said, Miss Mi Jia, when will you fulfill your promise of 10 dragon breath seals? Mi Jia rolled her eyes at him. Miser, you're urging me to pay again. Are you afraid that I won't pay? It's not that I'm afraid that you'll go back on your word. I'm thinking that if I summon 2 more spiritual beasts at the peak of the common mysterious realm, and each of them has a dragon breath seal to attack, I might be able to kill 3 opponents suddenly. Who knows? Mi Jia's expression suddenly became interesting. She slapped her thigh. Yes, I forgot that you still have a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. By the way, where's that stinky monkey? Don't ask too much about this. Did you bring the dragon breath seals? Mi Jia sighed. You're really a debt collector. Take it. After saying that, she waved her hand as if she was performing a magic trick. A stack of dragon breath seals was thrown over. Qin Wushuang caught it. Ha, good stuff. Nonsense. That's one of the life-saving talismans my father made for me. For the powerful attack of a transformation supreme Dao elite warrior. If one is not prepared, it's more than enough to kill a coagulate supreme Dao warrior. The key point is we cannot let their divine soul escape. Or else, there will always be trouble in the future. Qin Wushuang said leisurely, Under my graceful spiritual bow, I never pay attention to the divine soul. Both the physical body and the divine soul will explode together. You're so cruel, but I like it, ha. Little Wushuang, thinking about it, it's really exciting to form an alliance with you. Tell me, how are we going to mount a sneak attack? How are we going to arrange the battle tactics? Mi Jia's witch nature was exposed completely all of a sudden. In fact, Qin Wushuang took the word stray dog to heart. However, Mi Jia was even more narrow-minded than Qin Wushuang. Those guys kept calling her bitch, and it had already caused her anger to reach the peak. If it wasn't for the fact that she was not powerful enough, with her personality, she would have gone back to kill them long ago. Qin Wushuang spread out the map. Look, the place where they stopped us should be around here. Now, we are in this area. If we want to ambush them, we should choose here and here. These 2 places are the most suitable. Also, you must consider whether they have the ability to grasp your whereabouts. If they grasp your whereabouts, our sneak attack might not be effective. Grasp my whereabouts? Humph, they can't play any tricks at such a far distance. Don't worry. I guarantee that at most, they will only know our escape route. They will definitely not grasp our exact whereabouts. That's good. Look, I will set up an ambush in this area. I will use the graceful spiritual bow to ambush 2 of them. My subordinates will lock onto 1 target and activate 2 dragon breath seals at the same time. You and AI Simo will choose 1 target and deal with that one together. As for the remaining one, I will kill the first 2 and then deal with them. Can you deal with 3 of them by yourself? Mi Jiao was somewhat doubtful. Open your eyes and see, Qin Wushuang said lightly. He summoned the swallowing sky lion dragon and the dark mysterious snake. After giving them some instructions, he handed over 2 dragon breath seals. Take these 2 first. It's enough for each of you to use 1 for this battle. The remaining 1 for each of you, just in case it's necessary. After he finished speaking, he explained the tactics. On the side, Mi Jia's eyes shone as she listened. It was unknown whether she was praising him or belittling him. She said with a faint smile, "Little Wushuang, is this how you usually scheme against people?" Qin Wushuang said with a calm expression, "I can't help it. There are too many evil people in this world. Even if I use this method, I can't eliminate all of them. So shameless, but I still like it." Mi Jia was eager to give it a try. "Get ready. I reckon they will catch up with us soon." Qin Wushuang nodded and made a hand gesture. Then, each of them sneaked towards their arranged positions. If you want to know what will happen next, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 756. It was not because Qin Wushuang was narrow-minded and wanted to seek revenge for a single sentence. Rather, after careful consideration, he felt that this battle could not be avoided. Regardless, since these 5 people had discovered his identity, certainly they would entangle him tightly. Even if he chose to shrink back, there would be no leeway for him to turn back. Instead of letting the enemies entangle him, it would be better to make the first move to gain the upper hand. By killing these 5 people, even if he would offend the 3 dragon clans, at least he could intimidate those guys who were ready to make trouble. To a certain extent, it might not be a bad thing. Qin Wushuang was fed up with the situation of being beaten passively. Ever since he acquired the shooting sun arrows, Qin Wushuang felt that he seemed to have gained some extra decisiveness to kill in terms of temperament. A form of incredibly strong desire to take the initiative to attack stirred up inside his body. Although Mi Jia was nicknamed Sorceress, it was the first time in her entire life that she had made such a bold move. Inwardly, she felt somewhat restless and impulsive. However, she felt more of a sense of excitement. With her restless personality, even if she knew that the consequences of killing these 5 people would be severe, she would not consider it too much. Not to mention, those 5 bastards kept calling her slut and had already touched her reverse scale. Most importantly, Mi Jia found a form of temperament that was even more wild than her own from Qin Wushuang. If it were any of the young disciples of the Endless Eastern Sea, most likely they would be the only one who could maintain such calmness and take the initiative to attack when facing 5 Supreme Dao elite warriors. In general, a form of pursuing excitement made Mi Jia look forward to what was about to happen. Here it comes. Qin Wushuang was slightly moved inwardly as he sent his spiritual perception to Mi Jia. Mi Jia understood tacitly and became alert inwardly. When those 5 people chased after them, they were flustered and exasperated. They also kept complaining. "That slut Mi Jia, I don't know if she has taken a fancy to that pretty boy or wants to take the graceful spiritual bow for herself. Regardless, they will not run far. Let's catch up to them and kill them together. If we can get the graceful spiritual bow, why should we be afraid of offending the Horn Dragon clan? Yes, that slut, since she has fallen into my hands, I must have some fun first." Haha, you don't say. That little slut's figure is truly amazing. If you want a butt, you have a butt, and if you want a bust, you have a bust. Qin Wushuang snickered in his heart. These guys, even at death's door, they were still lustful. He was getting closer. Qin Wushuang squinted his eyes into a line. He slowly opened the graceful spiritual bow and suddenly urged his aura. The purple cloud yin-yang wings suddenly opened and rushed forward, turning into a meteor-like light. Like a full moon, the graceful spiritual bow was fully opened and emitted a murderous intent with an extremely strong devouring power. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The shooting sun arrows flew out side by side, as accurate as guided missiles. Their speed was so fast that no one could react in time. There was a distance between each of the 5 people. However, once the pressure of the graceful spiritual bow was activated, it covered an extremely wide area and directly covered the opponent's area. Within the attacking range of the graceful spiritual bow, it was filled with the presence of slaughter. The shooting sun arrows were like a charging dragon or a pouncing tiger. His aura was majestic, and his overflowing killing intent seemed to have frozen the entire space. Kill. There was only one thought in Qin Wushuang's mind. In the red mist, The shooting sun arrow's sharpness could not be suppressed and had already arrived. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrows. For arrows, a total of 4 arrows with clear targets were attacking 2 people. Not good, retreat quickly. Damn it, a sneak attack. Amidst the chaos, these 5 fellows reacted extremely quickly. Their figures flashed, and they jumped into the sky. However, the second reaction time could not be compared to the first reaction time. Moreover, after the graceful spiritual bow was bestowed with spirituality, the chasing ability of the shooting sun arrows would not deviate from the path. With a powerful tracking ability, they attacked one after another. It's the graceful spiritual bow. As soon as the miserable screams faded away, the shooting sun arrows had already hit the protective divine light of 2 people. The first arrow broke the protective divine light with just a rush. The second arrow chased after them. 2 consecutive arrows. Boom, boom. The golden light exploded and their bodies shattered into pieces. There was no suspense at all. Before the spiritual energy could escape, it was hit by the shooting sun arrows and was directly blasted into smithereens. Qin Wushuang was overjoyed. Killing 2 people with 4 arrows was actually easier than he had imagined. It was also because these 5 people underestimated the enemy and did not take precautions. Under the sneak attack, it indeed achieved a miraculous effect. Qin Wushuang laughed loudly. With a wave of his hand, he called back the 4 shooting sun arrows. Waving the graceful spiritual bow, he looked at the remaining 3 people with cold eyes. Only then did the 3 people stop their battle formation. Their eyes were somewhat frightened. Under this sudden surprise attack, the 2 fellow Taoists who were still lively and chatting happily just a moment ago had turned into ashes at this moment. Even if they were strong warriors of the coagulate Supreme Tao, they also felt their blood run cold. Looking at the bow in Qin Wushuang's hand that was full of murderous aura, each of their expressions was very frightened. Graceful spiritual bow. It's really the graceful spiritual bow. Brothers, attack together and kill him. We can't let him have the chance to attack from distance. The strong warriors of the Supreme Tao reacted and shouted one after another. The 3 of them roared at the same time and surrounded from 3 different directions. It was at this moment that a red figure cut across the sky. With a shake of her long whip, she smashed out a red cyclone that distorted the void. It rolled over and directly covered one of them. Bitch, it's you again. That person was fierce-looking. He was the guy who said he wanted to catch Mi Jia alive and have some fun. Mi Jia said coldly, "Didn't you want to have some fun just now? I'll let you have some fun." After she finished speaking, her whip was like a demon that kept lashing over. For a moment, this whip was like a dancing red dragon. It rolled up streaks of red light and intertwined into a ball of attack net, entangling that guy tightly. When the remaining 2 people saw that their companion was trapped by Mi Jia, they signaled with their eyes at the same time and roared, "The 2 of you surround him and kill that guy first." Just as they were talking, the expression of the guy with green scales changed. He looked at the side of his companion with frightened eyes and shouted, "Old 5, be careful behind you." That companion was shocked and had yet to react to what was going on. Suddenly, there was a burst of light behind his back. 2 powerful dragon breaths gushed over like waves. As soon as these 2 dragon breaths were released, it was like a flood that broke through the dam. It was like a ferocious beast that had just escaped from a cage. Like a Rugiamo, it sandwiched this person in the middle directly from both sides. Dragon breath seal. The expression of the guy with green scales changed greatly, and he roared, "Quickly use the dragon breath seal to resist." By the time they reacted and activated the dragon breath seal, it was obviously too late. These 2 dragon breath seals were incomparably overbearing and pressed over directly. The 2 rays of light collided with each other directly at a speed that could not be observed by the naked eye. That strong warrior of the Supreme Tao was directly engulfed by the 2 dragon breath seals. It was like 2 walls suddenly collided together. Under the perfect fusion, that strong warrior of the supreme Tao, was directly sandwiched into a meat patty. The divine soul let out a miserable cry and roared, "Third brother, quickly run." His companion's miserable cry before his death made the guy with green scales come to a realization. He stomped his foot and completely ignored his companion, who was entangled by Mijia. He transformed into a burst of green light and shot towards the 10,000 miles of the blue dome of heaven. All of a sudden, in the direction he was escaping, a claw extended across the sky. With a horizontal pull, 5 miserable sharp lights clawed at his face with a burst of cold presence. "Get lost." The green scale guy opened his eyes wide and saw a chubby dragon beast that seemed to have just been born. It was staring at him with a pair of watery eyes. "AI Simo, beautifully done." Qin Wushuang rushed over with a whistle and roared with laughter. His tone carried a form of judgment. "Sir, you want the graceful spiritual bow, right?" When that guy with green scale saw that his way was blocked and Qin Wushuang was chasing after him again, his expression turned cold as he fixed his voice and said, "Kid, if you dare to kill me, I promise you will not walk out of this endless eastern sea." Qin Wushuang gave a light sigh and said leisurely, "I remember that similar words were spoken by someone at the Illusion Heavenly Lake and also at the Xian Yuan Mount. In the end, without exception, I killed all those people. Do you think that your threat will have more tricks than theirs?" The guy with green scales breathed rapidly and his pupils shrunk rapidly. "Kid, the power of my crocodile dragon clan is not something you can imagine. What about it? I already reminded you to not ask about my identity. If you do, someone will die. You did not listen to my good words, and now you are seeking your own death. Who can you blame?" That guy with green scales revealed a bewildered expression. Yet, his palm under his sleeve was making subtle movements. Suddenly, AI Simo said with a childish voice, "Daddy, his hand is moving." Qin Wushuang laughed. "Don't worry if he wants to activate the Dragon Breath seal. I promise that his speed is not as fast as my arrow." The expression of the guy with green scales changed drastically as he glared at Qin Wushuang. He asked with a hoarse voice, "Tell me, what will make you let me live? Do you want treasures or something else? Just tell me. I can promise that I will not look into what happened today. The Crocodile Dragon Clan will not look into it either." On the side, Mijia cried out, "Kid Wushuang, don't believe his nonsense." Qin Wushuang said with a light smile, "For the matter of guarantee, I feel that the guarantee of a dead person is the most reliable. The graceful spiritual bow is right here. How about you take it? Or else, you will die under the graceful spiritual bow. Make your own choice. Kid, go to hell." An ominous glint appeared in the eyes of the guy with green scales. He raised his sleeve and suddenly swung it. A seal spurted out. Qin Wushuang laughed. "Good move." He activated the divine light, and 3 shooting sun arrows were shot together. With unparalleled momentum, they charged towards the dragon breath spurted out by the seal. This was a head-on confrontation. At this moment, Qin Wushuang was incredibly confident. He wanted to use the graceful spiritual bow to confront the other party's seal. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave one wins. The shooting sun arrows were like an indestructible, sharp weapon. Without waiting for the seal to be completely opened, they arrived first and destroyed the seal with a loud bang. When the guy with green scales saw this situation, his face turned ashen. His brain drilled, and he fled underground. Qin Wushuang's eyes revealed a look of disdain. He activated the purple cloud yin-yang wings and hung the graceful spiritual bow. Moving his 5 fingers, bursts of sword qi gushed out from his hand. The colorful sword qi pierced through the distance of the void. Like continuous bullets, it continuously hit the back of the guy with green scales. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 757. That guy was indeed impressive. The cyan scales all over his body emitted a dazzling light and actually blocked all of the sword chi. After all, Qin Wushuang had not entered the Supreme Dao stage. Although the coagulated sword was also a powerful technique, without the support of the power of the Supreme Dao stage, it was obviously quite troublesome to break this tyrannical scale armor. Qin Wushuang's continuous attacks, instead, made the man in green scales excited. He roared, "Qin Wushuang, without the graceful spiritual bow, you are just trash. If you have the guts, put down the graceful spiritual bow and fight with me." Qin Wushuang smiled leisurely and said indifferently, "As you wish." After hanging the graceful spiritual bow, he grabbed the Fury Dragon's soul that he hadn't used for a long time. As soon as this weapon was revealed, the complexion of the man in green scales changed greatly. His eyes emitted jealousy and anger. "Boy, you're actually using this kind of weapon?" Qin Wushuang was startled and then suddenly woke up. What a coincidence! This man was an elite of the Flood Dragon clan, and the Fury Dragon soul that he was using was said to be refined from the tendons of a Flood Dragon. It was no wonder that this guy suddenly became frantic. Qin Wushuang shook the whip and activated the divine power in his body. With a casual sweep, a huge whirlpool formed and rolled towards the man. That man revealed a hideous smile and thought, "After all, this boy is still inexperienced." He was provoked by my words and put down the graceful spiritual bow to fight with me. He is courting death. Without the graceful spiritual bow, what can he use to fight with me? Wait for me to launch a thunderous attack and kill him. After seizing the graceful spiritual bow, I will conveniently shoot that blockhead and that bitch me Jia to death together. I will take the graceful spiritual bow for myself. This is my big plan. Thinking of this, the man laughed heartily. "Good boy. Let me see how monstrous you are." After he finished speaking, his body swayed and the shape of a flood dragon immediately transformed. It spat out clouds and swayed in the air as it charged towards Qin Wushuang aggressively. With a swipe of its claws and fangs, it tried to grab Qin Wushuang's whip. Qin Wushuang seized the opportunity to entangle. Instead of retreating, he rolled towards the ferocious claws. The man was overjoyed. This brat is courting his own death. He is a cultivator below the Supreme Dao stage. How can his Fury Jiao whip restrain me? Thinking of this, he let out a long howl. His claws and teeth glowed with a green light as he grabbed at the whip. Qin Wushuang did not use the graceful spiritual bow, not because he was arrogant. Just like when he fought against Mi Jia previously, he merely wanted to borrow this fellow's strength to train his actual combat strength and experience the feeling of fighting in close combat with a Supreme Dao elite warrior. When Mi Jia saw that Qin Wushuang had abandoned the graceful spiritual bow and was actually engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the other party, she was both angry and anxious. However, she was entangled by that fierce-looking guy, and at most, the battle would end in a draw. Fortunately, AI Simo was watching from the side. In addition, the two spirit beasts at the peak of the common mysterious stage were also guarding the side. These two spirit beasts each had a sealed dragon breath, so they were not worried that the enemy would escape. That green scale armor of the Flood Dragon was indeed powerful. After being swept by Qin Wushuang's Fury Jiao soul, a green light flashed and it was unscathed. That Flood Dragon laughed loudly. "How can you hurt me when you attack me with your Flood Dragon whip?" With a twist of his wrist, he directly coiled the Fury Jiao soul. He urged the dragon breath all over his body, and it gushed out along the Fury Jiao soul. A strong green light spread out and attacked like lightning. Qin Wushuang acted as if he did not feel it at all. He pretended to pull with his hand, and his expression changed slightly. That Flood Dragon grinned hideously. "Brat, do you still think you can escape?" He urged the dragon breath again and again, spreading it along the Fury Jiao soul. Qin Wushuang revealed a trace of a strange smile. "When did I say I was going to escape?" As soon as his voice fell, he urged the power of Deep North and opened his dantian. The attacks that were like electric currents continuously converged. He used the power of Deep North to absorb the dragon breath and sent it into Qin Wushuang's dantian continuously. Seeing Qin Wushuang absorb the dragon breath, the flood dragon laughed loudly. Brat, are you tired of living? Since you like it, then go die. As he spoke, he urged the dragon breath to rush at Qin Wushuang at an even faster speed. You dare to swallow my dragon breath? Haha, then I'll crush your dantian. Despicable human die. The veins on the flood dragon's forehead bulged, and his face was extremely ferocious. Qin Wushuang's dantian was not something that the flood dragon could imagine. The better the flood dragon urged, the more he felt refreshed. The flood dragon urged a dozen times and faintly sensed that something was wrong. Looking at Qin Wushuang again, he was expressionless, like a calm sea, unable to see the depth at all. Although his dragon breath was like a river flowing into the sea, his opponent's dantian was like a bottomless pit. No matter how they urged, they could not see the bottom at all. How is this possible? The flood dragon began to be a little surprised and secretly suspicious. Is this guy's dantian a bottomless pit? Why does it seem like it can't be filled? Vividly, Qin Wushuang's carefree appearance made the crocodile dragon feel a wave of uneasiness. No, this kid must be scheming against me. When the flood dragon thought of this, he swung his tail and was about to retreat. Just as he was about to leave, the flood dragon's heart suddenly sank, because he found that the other party's whip seemed to have a special magic power, holding him tightly. Did I see a ghost? The flood dragon was scared out of his wits. He found that he did not use his dragon breath at all, but the dragon breath in his body was still leaking out, as if it was being pulled out by someone. Seeing the flood dragon like this, Qin Wushuang knew that the other party had already noticed. Naturally, he took advantage of the opportunity to pursue. He continued to urge the dark north technique, and a powerful suction force, as if devouring the world, firmly held the flood dragon. Only then did the flood dragon realize that something was wrong. He roared wildly, and the scales all over his body stood up. He roared, "Kid, what kind of demonic technique are you using?" Qin Wushuang turned a deaf ear. No matter how the flood dragon struggled, he had the purple cloud yin-yang wings on his body. He swayed with the flood dragon in the air, but he did not let go. The flood dragon struggled in the air, swinging its tail, trying to attack Qin Wushuang and make him give up. How could Qin Wushuang be hit by its tail? With the other hand, he manipulated the heavenly vein condensed sword and continuously shot it. In the beginning, the sword chi of the heavenly vein condensed sword could not hurt the flood dragon. But at this moment, the flood dragon was obviously a little weak after consuming so much energy. Under the attack of the magnificent sword chi, it began to gradually lose its strength. The defensive power of the scale armor was clearly decreasing. The strength of the dragon clan lay in their dragon breath. This dragon breath was equivalent to the power of the supreme Tao of the dragon clan. As the dragon breath continued to weaken, whether it was the attack power or the defense power, naturally would be greatly reduced. Kid, you will regret it. You will definitely regret it. The flood dragon used all kinds of methods, but it was still like a kite, tightly held by Qin Wushuang. Gradually, it began to lose its strength, and only a weak threat was left. Qin Wushuang was not merciful at all. The dark north technique's momentum flourished, and the flood dragon's dragon breath was completely absorbed. The flood dragon was sucked dry, and there was no way for its divine soul to escape from its body. Qin Wushuang swung the furious flood dragon soul. Swallowing Sky, I'll leave it to you. When the swallowing sky lion dragon saw the body of the supreme Tao flood dragon, it was naturally overjoyed. It soared into the sky, opened its bloody mouth, and directly swallowed it. It started to chew with big mouthfuls. After the flood dragon's dragon breath was sucked dry, its body and divine soul were chewed into pieces by the swallowing sky lion dragon and swallowed into its stomach. The swallowing sky lion dragon was greatly satisfied. With a wild roar, the strength of its entire body was even more abundant. If it was not for the seal, perhaps this great nourishment would be enough to help it directly break through to the supreme Tao stage. Qin Wushuang activated the purple cloud Yin Yang wings and leisurely came to the area where Mi Jia was fighting. He smiled leisurely. "Miss Mi Jia, do you need help?" When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang settle the flood dragon without using the graceful spiritual bow, she was also somewhat surprised. Then, she recalled the situation when they were fighting and knew that Qin Wushuang was full of strangeness from head to toe. Hence, she was not surprised. She whistled softly. "If you don't help, I can't guarantee that I won't let him go." Qin Wushuang did not know what to do with this woman. He took out the graceful spiritual bow and said with a smile, "If I remember correctly, this guy seemed to say that he wanted to do something to you just now." Mi Jia did not mind and said with a smile, "This guy is lecherous and the most hateful. Don't shoot him to death first. I want to castrate him." In any case, that guy was also a Supreme Tao elite warrior. In his own domain, he had always been domineering. When had he ever been in such a difficult situation? Now he was like an ant. His life and death seemed to be decided by someone else's mouth. How could he not be angry? He roared repeatedly, "Bitch, you betrayed the Dragon Clan. I will swallow you." After he finished speaking, his body swayed and actually turned into a flood dragon. Its body was extremely huge, and it swallowed Mi Jia directly. Qin Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at this flood dragon. He activated the graceful spiritual bow again and shouted in a low voice, "Go." The shooting sun arrow was like a devil from hell as it shot directly toward the head of the flood dragon. Swoosh! The shooting sun arrow directly hit the eye of the flood dragon. It entered from the left and exited from the right. Mi Jia was overjoyed. She twirled the whip in her hand and wrapped the flood dragon's body like a dumpling. She kept rolling it up and muttered, "Great cutting skill." Immediately, hundreds of dagger-like blades overflowed from the top of the whip and started to cut the flood dragon's body continuously. For a moment, flesh and blood flew everywhere. The flood dragon's body seemed to have been eaten by insects and ants. In a short while, only the skin was left outside. When Qin Wushuang saw this bloody scene, he was also slightly stunned. This Mi Jia's method was not like a girl at all. She was clearly like a cruel devil. When Mi Jia saw Qin Wushuang's stupefied look, she smiled proudly and held the skin in her hand. She raised her willowy eyebrows and the corner of her mouth rose. The scales of this flood dragon are the toughest and the thickest among the 9 true dragon clans. If this skin is used to make armor, it can definitely be refined into a Supreme Tao armor. Qin Wushuang suddenly understood where Mi Jia's method came from. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.qijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 758. Mi Jia did not hold back as she put away the horned dragon skin into the ring. Acting first and reporting later, she chuckled. "This is mine. You don't have any objections, right?" Qin Wushuang spread out his hands. "Just take it." Mi Jia gave a long sigh. "Unfortunately, your graceful spiritual bow is too powerful. If we could capture their divine soul dragon pellet, it would be a great harvest." Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes. "Don't be too greedy. For this battle, if we didn't use the appropriate sneak attack tactic and let them take the initiative, most of us would have lost our lives. Under such circumstances, you still want the divine soul dragon pellet. Ha ha, this is called giving them an inch and asking for a mile. Who asked them to provoke me?" After experiencing a massacre, Mi Jia was in a great mood. She appeared to regard herself as a meritorious subject. Qin Wushuang took a look at the battlefield, and there was nothing to clean up. They were either completely annihilated, swallowed cleanly, or skinned. There were no remains left at the scene. As for the battle scene, it was a complete mess. Clearly, it could not be restored. There was no need to restore it. At the endless Eastern Sea, killings happened all the time. Perhaps the death of these 5 people would be counted on Qin Wushuang's head, or perhaps it would not be counted on him. Qin Wushuang was already aware of it and did not mind it. Killing and killing, if one did not die, one would die. Since Qin Wushuang chose to make a move, He was prepared to deal with everything. He could not just sit and wait for death. Anyways, there was still the eldest miss of the Horned Dragon clan to take care of it. Mi Jiao was in a great mood as she said with an unsatisfied tone, "I feel that I haven't had enough. How good would it be if another group comes?" Qin Wushuang was directly speechless. "I say, Miss Mi Jia, this is a life and death battle, not a child's play. You are a battle maniac. Go ahead and find someone to fight. I don't have the time and energy to accompany you." Mi Jia chuckled. Look, you have less guts than a woman." "I'm not afraid." "What are you afraid of?" Qin Wushuang snappily asked. "Do you want the Scarlet Fire or not? If you don't want to go, then let's part ways and go our separate ways." "Of course, why wouldn't I? I said that we just work together, so we should have a pleasant cooperation. Why are you so angry? You're a big man. Can't you have some magnanimity?" Mi Jia said in a lecturing tone. Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes and said, "Talking about magnanimity with you would be torturing myself. Stop talking nonsense. Let's go." Mi Jia was helpless. She could only follow Qin Wushuang and quickly left the scene. Along the way, Mi Jia followed Qin Wushuang and kept a low profile. There were no more incidents. Along the way, the news of the death of those 5 supreme Dao elite warriors gradually spread across the endless Eastern Sea day after day. For the time being, it was as if a giant tsunami had been triggered at the endless Eastern Sea. To the endless Eastern Sea, the strange death of 5 supreme Dao elite warriors was definitely a major nightmare. Although there were many supreme Dao elite warriors at the endless Eastern Sea, when 5 of them died at once, and it was rumored that these 5 were in a group, it triggered even more panic and speculation. When Qin Wushuang heard the discussions along the way, his mood was as calm as water. It was as if this matter was completely unrelated to him. On the other hand, Mi Jiao was in a great mood. If she didn't consider the sensitive nature of her identity, she would have wanted to reveal herself and announce that she had killed those 5 people. It was as if she had made a great contribution, yet she could not publicize it. She could only be a nameless hero behind the scenes. It was incredibly depressing, especially to a sorceress like Mi Jia who was somewhat vain. Holding back these secrets was even more unbearable than being pregnant for 10 months. If Qin Wushuang had not threatened her with benefits, most likely this sorceress would have taken it all on herself. Of course, along the way, there were also many speculations. There were many different versions of the death of those 5 people. What made Qin Wushuang feel somewhat reassured was that among the many versions, although there were some speculations as to whether it was related to the owner of the graceful spiritual bow, it was not the mainstream voice. After all, everyone did not think that a disciple of the Qin clan who had fled to the endless Eastern Sea after being chased by the Heavenly Emperor Gate would have the power to kill 5 supreme Dao elite warriors. Because of this asymmetry in power, the outside world did not point their suspicion at Qin Wushuang. What made Qin Wushuang rejoice was that although those 5 people had found out through various sources that Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia were in the same group, clearly they did not have accurate information to prove this point. In other words, the outside world did not know that those 5 people had already found him and Mi Jia. Mi Jia appeared somewhat depressed as she said with an indignant tone, "They are truly intolerable bullies. The information of these people is too trashy, right?" She had a reason to feel depressed. She was involved in the entire matter. However, these doubtful public opinions, and even her name as Miss Mi Jia, had never appeared at all. It was no wonder that the public opinion did not point at her. After all, with her strength, she had just entered the Supreme Dao stage. Some people did not even know that she had entered the Supreme Dao stage. One might ask, how could a young disciple that had just entered the Supreme Dao stage kill 5 coagulate Supreme Dao elite warriors from the 3 dragon clans? Therefore, in the public opinion, Mi Jia did not even count as a suspect. On the contrary, the biggest suspect was that groundless golden crow. The mainstream rumor was that those 5 people were unlucky and encountered the resurrected golden crow. They were killed by the golden crow directly. Although this statement was somewhat unreliable and did not have enough evidence, it had become the mainstream. It was apparent how much influence the rumor of the Golden Crow had caused to the current endless Eastern Sea. In comparison, the appearance of Qin Wushuang and the graceful spiritual Bao had been weakened at the endless Eastern Sea. To Qin Wushuang, this was a great thing. Along the way, Qin Wushuang heard many rumors. He also learned that almost everyone at the endless Eastern Sea was discussing the matter of the Golden Crow. On the contrary, the topic of Qin Wushuang and the graceful spiritual Bao could only be the third topic. As for the second topic, of course, it was about the strange disappearance of the 5 supreme Dao elite warriors. At a certain area of the endless Eastern Sea, Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu, these 2 elite warriors of the Transformation Supreme Dao stage from the Heavenly Emperor 8 Gates were also somewhat at a loss. The vastness of the endless Eastern Sea almost caused them to get lost here. Although the Heavenly Emperor Gate more or less had some intelligence network at the endless Eastern Sea, they were not local people. Although they had some clues, they could not find Qin Wushuang in the end. Xian Tianwu was in an incredibly terrible mood as she swore angrily. This unfilial son of the Qin clan can run away at the endless Eastern Sea? I refuse to believe that he can fly to the sky. Naturally, Lei Yu is calmer than Xian Tianwu. That son of the Qin clan is on good terms with the Coiled Dragon clan. According to the intelligence, the secular family and colleagues of the son of the Qin clan all went to seek refuge at the royal mansion of the Coiled Dragon clan. Across the boundless, endless Eastern Sea, it's difficult to find the son of the Qin clan. However, it's easy to find the Coiled Dragon royal mansion. When Xian Tianwu heard Lei Yu's tone, she could not but help to ask, Lei Yu, you mean, could it be we're going to kill our way to that Coiled Dragon royal mansion? To kill our way to the Coiled Dragon royal mansion, I'm afraid it's not enough for you and me. However, since the relatives and colleagues of that son of the Qin clan are hiding at the mansion, I don't believe they will not take a step out. The 2 of us can stand guard in the vicinity and seize the opportunity to sneak into the Coiling Dragon Manor. As long as we can capture 1 or 2 important figures, I don't believe that son of the Qin clan will not show himself. That kid is always protective of his own people and cares about his family and colleagues. Xian Tianwu's expression also showed some agreement as she nodded with a resentful tone. We will do as you say. That kid's closest relatives were his father, his sister, and his nephew. For the Stargaze Palace, there seems to be a teacher and a group of colleagues. If we can capture his father, sister, or his teacher, these 3 people will certainly be the most important. Yes, these 3 can be listed as the top hunting targets. In the worst case, we can capture a few of his colleagues. As long as we use provocation, I don't believe he will not come out. Yes, without further ado, let's go to the Coiled Dragon Royal Mansion. Rather than searching for a needle in a haystack, it's better to wait for the rabbit by a stump. Even if we cannot capture that kid's family and colleagues, that kid will eventually return to the Coiled Dragon Royal Mansion. If we cannot wait for him for a year, I don't believe he will not return in 3 or 5 years, Xian Tianwu said viciously. Yes, anyways, there are 15 years until the Heavenly Emperor election. In these 15 years, could it be he will let his family stay at the Coiled Dragon Royal Mansion and not ask about them? That's right, that's the case. Let's go. After the 2 Transformation Supreme Dao elite warriors finished their discussion, they also flew towards the direction of the Coiled Dragon Royal Mansion. Qin Wushuang, who was a few million miles away, was completely unaware of Xian Tianwu and Lei Yu's scheme. Along with Mijia, he took AI Simo to head east. They were getting closer to the eastern polar region. The closer they got to the eastern polar region, the higher the frequency of elite warriors of the Dragon Clan appearing. Clearly, for the rumors of the rushing current valley, some of the elite warriors of the Dragon Clan wanted to get to the bottom of it. Of course, the true elite warriors of the Dragon Clan were all gathered at the first-rate Dragon Palace. The elite warriors that appeared here were all newborn calves like Mijia. They were both ambitious and passionate. The rushing current valley was the burial place of the Golden Crow. It was rumored that treasures were everywhere. It was especially suitable for training. Training for one day at the Russian Current Valley was equivalent to training for a month in the outside world. Because of this, talented young men from all over the place kept gathering when they heard the news. Among them, there was no lack of elite warriors from other forbidden spiritual zones. Clearly, these people had come for Qin Wushuang. Only, since they could not investigate Qin Wushuang's whereabouts, they could only join in the fun and try to bump into Qin Wushuang at the eastern polar region. Of course, Qin Wushuang would not kill anyone he saw. Currently, there were more and more elite warriors. Even if he were to make a move, he must be cautious and never let down his guard. Once he did not control it well, most likely he would ignite a barrel of gunpowder. The situation would most likely go out of control and cause him to fall into a heavy siege. To anyone, the graceful spiritual bow was definitely full of temptation. On this day, Qin Wushuang and that Mi Jia arrived at the Seven Murder Gulf. Inside the endless eastern sea, this Seven Murder Gulf could be said to be a rather bloody territory with a heavy, murderous presence. It was a territory governed by the Jackal Wolf clan, one of the non-nine dragon clans. Similar to the Swan and Eye clan, this Jackal Wolf clan was a powerful clan among the non-nine dragon clans. To be continued, if you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 759. The information showed that the Jackal Wolf was one of the 9 sons of the dragon. It had the body of a dragon and the head of a jackal. It had an unyielding personality and loved to fight. It was always holding the sword in its mouth and glaring at its enemy with its glaring eyes. It was engraved on the blade ring and sword hilt to increase its power. As the saying goes, a meal of kindness must be repaid and a grievance must be avenged. The Jackal Wolf had become the embodiment of all evil. The Jackal Wolf clan had an extremely courageous personality and were incredibly bloodthirsty. At the endless eastern sea, ordinary dragon martial artists would avoid the martial artists of the Jackal Wolf clan. It was because once they provoked the martial artists of the Jackal Wolf clan, most likely they would face endless pursuit from a group of Jackal Wolf martial artists. The Jackal Wolf clan held grudges and were persistent. To their enemies, they would definitely put them to death. They would never allow their enemies to live freely in the world. Therefore, under normal circumstances, unless it was the totem of the forefather dragon clan, the other dragon clans of the endless eastern sea would restrain their fear to the Jackal Wolf clan. Although they were not afraid, at least they were restraining their fear. After entering the Jackal Wolf Dragon City, sorceress Mi Jia also restrained herself. This was unexpected to Qin Wushuang. It seemed that evil people would be dealt with by evil people. With the reputation of the Jackal Wolf clan, even sorceress Mi Jia restrained her fear. When he arrived at the Seven Murder Gulf, he was only about 1,000,000 miles away from the Russian Current Valley. Qin Wushuang planned to rest and reorganize at the area of the Seven Murder Gulf. Last time, after absorbing the dragon breath of the Crocodile Dragon clan, to Qin Wushuang, it was greatly beneficial. Initially, Qin Wushuang was worried that his dantian would not be compatible with the dragon breath. In the end, he realized that he was overthinking. After the dragon breath entered his dantian, not only was it compatible, it also transformed his dantian and was extremely nourishing. This time, Qin Wushuang was no longer surprised. He knew that everything was bestowed by the immemorial phantom dragon bloodline baptism at the coiling dragon palace hall of the floating snow house at the Black Dead Sea. It caused Qin Wushuang's body to merge with the phantom dragon bloodline. Last time in the abyss, Qin Wushuang's arms had shown signs of dragon scales. Now, after absorbing the dragon breath of the Flood Dragon clan, Qin Wushuang's physical body showed signs of transforming again. The physical body of a dragon was at least twice as strong as that of a human cultivator. Moreover, the demon dragon bloodline made Qin Wushuang feel like he was gradually transforming into a dragon. Qin Wushuang knew that as the bloodline continued to fuse, sooner or later, he would be able to transform between a human and a dragon dharma body at will, just like the dragons. Qin Wushuang was very curious now. Just how powerful was the demon dragon of the coiling dragon palace hall? After going through the baptism of the demonic dragon bloodline, he could actually absorb the dragon breath of the flood dragon clan without any pressure, and his dantian did not have any abnormal reaction at all. After that battle, Qin Wushuang could at least prove that his dantian realm was more powerful than the divine beast Jiao dragon. Otherwise, when the dragon breath gushed in, it would be strange if it did not explode his dantian. Mi Jia was depressed all the way to the Yazi Dragon City. As the wind gradually calmed down, she also gradually relaxed her vigilance. After entering the Yazi Dragon City, Mi Jia complained, "Now, we can finally find a better place to sit down, right? I'm so depressed that I am about to die. I heard that the wine of the Yazi Dragon clan is excellent. Are you interested in drinking a few cups?" Drinking a few cups is not a problem. I'm just afraid that you can't control your mouth when you go crazy. Mi Jia snorted and said, "Are you looking down on me?" "Wrong. It's not that I am looking down on you. It's just that I don't even need to look at you to know that you can't control your mouth." Qin Wushuang said coldly. Mi Jia was different from her usual self. Not only was she not angry, but she said with a smile, all right. Tell me what to do. I will listen to you, okay?" As she said, she actually intimately tugged at Qin Wushuang's arm and shook it twice like a spoiled child. When Qin Wushuang saw Mi Jia's abnormal behavior, his first thought was that there must be a trick. He subconsciously pulled his arm out and said with a look of not daring to ask for advice, "Don't try to get close to me. I can't stand you." Mi Jia laughed out loud and shook her body. Her proud figure leaned to one side and naturally leaned on Qin Wushuang's shoulder like a little bird. "Rascal, do I have long thorns on my body?" As she said this, she also laughed. Her eyes, however, intentionally or unintentionally, glanced toward the front. Qin Wushuang had been observing Mi Jia's every move. When he saw that her eyes were a little restless, his heart thumped, and he hurriedly looked toward the front. Sure enough, the opposite was a young man from the dragon clan with fluttering clothes. He had a jade-like face and a golden crown on his head. He wore a dragon robe and a pair of golden boots. A purple jade belt was tied around his waist. He was dressed like an elegant young master, and there were a few attendants following behind him. On the surface, Mi Jia was leaning on Qin Wushuang's shoulder. However, she was secretly tugging at Qin Wushuang's arm tightly. She transmitted her voice fiercely. "Little Wushuang, if you don't give me face, I will shout that you raped me." Once this crazy woman went crazy, Qin Wushuang really couldn't stand it. He didn't know what trick she was going to play. He only transmitted his voice. "If you want your Horn Dragon clan to get into trouble, then talk nonsense." Mi Jia smiled sweetly and glanced at him with her gentle eyes. The corners of her mouth were slightly filled with endless flirtatiousness, as if she was angry, yet not angry. If it wasn't for Qin Wushuang's firm mind, he would have been tempted by her seductive behavior. However, at this moment, Qin Wushuang's heart was as still as water. He was like an old monk in meditation. He actually turned a blind eye to Mi Jia's seductive behavior. Mi Jia muttered discontentedly in her throat. "What a block of wood. He thinks I'm throwing flirtatious glances at a blind person." When she raised her head and saw the young master from the dragon clan walking over, Mi Jia was furious. That young master from the dragon clan waved his paper fan and strolled over. With an extremely surprised tone, he said, "Miss Mi Jia, I said that when I came here today, there was a pleasant feeling that came spontaneously. It turns out that I'm very lucky to have met Miss Mi Jia today. It's really a pleasure to meet you. It's been 3 to 4 years since we parted, right? I didn't expect Miss Mi Jia's elegance to be even better than before." Mi Jia looked at that young master with a faint smile. With a taunting tone, she asked, "Where are your bad company?" That young master who called himself, he chuckled and said, "Those guys don't do proper work. I have already severed ties with them." "Is that so? In that case, young master E, are you really going to turn over a new leaf?" "That's right. That young master, he said with a serious face. My biggest wish now is to marry a noble lady who is worthy of my Paleo clan. Miss Mi Jia. Stop. Next, are you going to say that Miss Mi Jia is a peerless beauty with a face that can captivate the birds and beasts, a beauty that outshines the moon and puts the flowers to shame? My admiration for Miss Mi Jia is like the water of the East Sea, endless. That young Master Yi's face showed some embarrassment. Miss Mi Jia, those are embarrassing matters of the past. Really, I'm turning over a new leaf now. I haven't been involved in romance for many years. My thoughts? Mi Jia revealed a strange smile. You can't be saying that you want to pursue me, right? That young master, he said with a smile. Miss Mi Jia is indeed exceptionally smart. I'm afraid that my long-cherished wish has never been hidden from your eyes, right? Qin Wushuang held back his laughter. He probably already knew what was going on. He gently swept away Mi Jia's arm and teased. Miss Mi Jia, your pursuer is here. I won't disturb you two from catching up. After saying that, he walked forward leisurely. Mi Jia smiled leisurely. Sticky guy, are you jealous? I have nothing to do with him at all. That young master, he heard Mi Jia's coquettish tone and his pair of beautiful eyes staring at that man. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. Miss Mi Jia, who is this person? This young master, he wasn't an idiot. He was also a young talent from the non-9 dragon clans. He had good eyesight and had long seen that Qin Wushuang shouldn't be a disciple of the 18 dragon clans. He's my future husband. Unfortunately, I didn't choose him. It's an arranged marriage from the older generation. Boo-hoo, I'm so pitiful. I can't decide my marriage. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. When Mi Jia mentioned the pitiful part, she actually covered her face and pretended to cry. Qin Wushuang was completely speechless. This demoness really knew how to act. Unexpectedly, when that young master heard this, a feeling of tender affection for the fairer sex arose spontaneously. The desire to act as a flower protector suddenly overflowed. What era is this? Is there such an old-fashioned thing as arranging a marriage before birth? Isn't this depriving young people of their lifelong happiness? Young master, he said with righteous indignation. The way he looked at Qin Wushuang suddenly changed. It was as if he was looking at an old landlord who oppressed his serfs. It was filled with class hatred. It must be this guy who's pestering you, right? Young Master Yi's eyes were red. Mi Jia secretly laughed in her heart. She had been annoyed with this young master, for not a day or two. She was in a sullen mood. This guy came knocking on her door insensibly. It would be strange if Mi Jia didn't tease him. Yes, he wants to force me to get married. I'd rather die than comply. When young master heard this, his heart was about to break. He was furious. He rolled up his sleeves and no longer cared about the image of a graceful young master. How can this be? Is there still such a thing as forced marriage in this era? Kid, stop right there. If you don't explain yourself today, don't think about leaving. Mi Jia pretended to persuade. Young master, don't be like this. You can't beat him alone. Now that you've cut off contact with your friends, you don't have any helpers. Young master, he grinned. He pouted his lips and blew a whistle. Suddenly, several young men dressed in different clothes rushed out from all directions. Without exception, they all had the words hedonistic son of a wealthy family written on their faces. Mi Jia stuttered. Didn't you say that you've cut off contact with them? Young master, he chuckled and said, Miss Mi Jia, I've cut off contact with them, but they refused to comply. I'm a soft-hearted person and was afraid that they would seek death. Therefore, I kept them by my side to observe. Based on their performance, I'll decide whether to cut off contact completely. So that's the case. Then you guys should persuade him not to fight. When Mi Jia said this, she almost couldn't hold back her laughter. This bunch of hedonistic sons of rich parents were still so easy to tease. With just a few words, they had lost their sense of direction. Kid, brother, he asked you to stop. Did you not bring your ears? If you don't stop, don't blame us for being impolite to you. Qin Wushuang glanced at this group of people helplessly. He then looked at Mi Jia, who was gloating at his misfortune. He thought to himself that this crazy, which was definitely going to flare up since she hadn't come looking for trouble during this period of time. He looked at these people coldly and waved his hand. He pointed to his head and said, "If you guys brought your brains, you wouldn't have been deceived by a woman with big breasts but no brains." Big breasts but no brains? What are you talking about? Those hedonistic sons of rich parents scolded one after another. Who do you think I'm talking about? Qin Wushuang glanced at Mi Jia. Mi Jia didn't mind. Instead, she raised the corner of her mouth in a gloating manner. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.qijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 760. Obviously, this was not the first time Qin Wushuang had encountered such a boring scene in his previous life. However, it was somewhat different this time. In the past, if there were beauties around, those foppish young masters would be like flies smelling rotten eggs. The beauties themselves would be disdainful and avoid such foppish young masters like the plague. However, this Mi Jia wanted to stir up trouble and took the initiative to provoke the other party. This made the situation even more ridiculous. Looking at young Master Yi, who was overflowing with a sense of justice, Qin Wushuang felt rather helpless. Glancing at Mi Jia, Qin Wushuang said indifferently, "If they like to cause trouble, you can accompany them here. I want to accompany you." After saying that, his feet tapped the ground. Immortal Ascending Cloud Steps was activated. With a flash of his shadow, countless afterimages appeared, swaying left and right like a lotus leaf in the wind. In the blink of an eye, he was 1,000 feet away. Mi Jia stomped her foot and glared at young Master Yi. She snorted and said, "Humph, with such little ability, you want to fight for justice?" Young Master Yi's face turned red. He made a hand gesture, and those scoundrels immediately swarmed forward, pressing towards Qin Wushuang like meteors. "Stop right there. Take this, boy." A total of 4 attacks came from all directions. Afterimages attacked continuously. Qin Wushuang revealed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. His footsteps remained the same. His sleeves shook lightly, and with a very subtle movement, he casually guided the 4 attacks. The 4 attacks, overflowing with brilliance, immediately condensed into a ball and exploded, rebounding in all directions. Stellar transposition. Qin Wushuang swung his sleeves in a natural and unrestrained manner, as if he had not made a move at all. The next moment, the 4 guys who besieged him let out a cry of pain almost at the same time. Bang! 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 Like a wooden stake being chopped by an axe, they fell down like a kite with a broken string. Their noses and faces were bruised and swollen. Qin Wushuang's stellar transposition was a top martial art in his previous life. In this life, as Qin Wushuang's cultivation continued to improve, the concept of this martial art also continued to improve. In close combat, this technique often had the effect of catching the enemy off guard. Initially, these 4 guys that had launched a sneak attack on Qin Wushuang also possessed extraordinary strength. Although they were only that young Master Yi's group of rogues, they were all super playboys of their respective parties. At least, they had the strength of the perfect void martial stage. The 2 strongest ones were only at the Grotto Profound realm. However, in front of Qin Wushuang, these 4 people were like children who had just learned martial arts. They could not withstand a single blow. He didn't even know what was going on before he fell into Qin Wushuang's trap. One by one, they crawled up with bruises all over their faces. When one of them saw the wound on his arm, he glared at his companion and roared, "Yin Zi, why the F*CK did you attack me?" The guy who was scolded also had a look of anger on his face as he roared, "Bullsh*T, when did I attack you? Look at my injuries. Isn't this the work of your flowing light finger? Damn, my shoulder was hit by the wind transformation blade. Gongzi, tell me." That Gongzi also cried out bitterly, "Don't complain first. This time, I was truly hit by the Big Dipper palm. Old Tang, you must give me an explanation." These 4 people all revealed a face full of bad luck as they started to fight among themselves on the spot. All of them spoke with one voice and accused their companion of attacking them. Additionally, each of them had the injuries on their body as proof. They argued endlessly as their faces and ears turned red. They almost forgot who they were dealing with. They rolled up their sleeves and were about to find trouble with each other. Certainly, this scene had left that young master dumbstruck and speechless for a while. Even Mi Jia had a face full of disbelief. She had witnessed the situation from a moment ago. However, in the end, she did not see clearly how Qin Wushuang had made his move. She only felt that the four waves of power had suddenly deviated from the path and shot towards those four guys. Mi Jiao was not certain whether Qin Wushuang had made the move or not. She looked towards Qin Wushuang with some bewilderment. However, she saw a tall figure walking forward leisurely from the other side of the long street. This figure appeared even more dashing under the sunlight. A strange look flitted across Mi Jia's eyes. Immediately, she flicked the bangs on her forehead and took a step forward with a grin, chasing in the direction of Qin Wushuang. Seeing that Mi Jia was about to leave, young master hurriedly asked, "Miss Mi Jia, where are you going?" Mi Jia rolled her eyes and said in all seriousness, "No one is standing up for me. I'll just take it that I'm unlucky. Anyway, I can't escape from his evil clutches. I might as well just follow him, so that the innocent people won't be hurt." Young master, he kept his fan. His expression was strange, and his breathing was rapid. The veins on his forehead were bulging. He straightened his neck and said in a tone as if he was facing death with equanimity, "Miss Mi Jia, count me in. Even if I can't beat that kid, I'll fight it out with him. Hurry up and go as far as you can." As he said, he stomped his foot and rushed towards Qin Wushuang. Mi Jia smiled strangely and scolded in a low voice, "What a fool. Stupid and stupid. It's no fun to tease him." Seeing young master, he catching up with him quickly, Qin Wushuang suddenly turned around and urged his aura. Young master, he was stunned and stopped his footsteps subconsciously. However, his eyes were not fearful at all. He stared at Qin Wushuang and shouted excitedly, "Kid, I don't care who you are or how strong you are. We, the Dragon Clan, have our bottom line. You can chase after Miss Mi Jia and compete fairly, but you can't force her. When it comes to marriage, there won't be happiness if you force her." Seeing Qin Wushuang carelessly touching his earlobe and looking completely absent-minded, young master, he became even more furious and roared, "Don't think that you can be unscrupulous just because you have some ability. Let me tell you, for Miss Mi Jia's happiness, I'll fight it out with you even if I have to bleed on the spot today." Qin Wushuang sighed. Although this young master, is a dandy, his character doesn't seem to be bad. After all, he's still different from the average dandy. If he had not done so, Qin Wushuang would have slapped him to the corner to cry. Sighing softly, Qin Wushuang asked indifferently, "Young master, you're a disciple of the Pu Lao clan, right?" Young master, was flustered and exasperated. "That's me. What do you want?" Qin Wushuang glanced at Mi Jia's direction and asked helplessly, "Since you're a disciple of the Pu Lao clan, you shouldn't be someone who hasn't seen the world, right? What's Miss Mi Jia's nickname?" Young master, was stunned. "Why are you talking about this? Although Miss Mi Jia is called a demoness, that's a misinterpretation of her by the outside world. In fact, she's very simple and cute." "That demoness can be called cute? She can be called simple?" Qin Wushuang was truly speechless. Why else would the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder be true? "Young master, I think the cute and simple person is not that demoness, but you. You've been at the endless Eastern Sea for so many years. When have you ever heard of this demoness being taken advantage of? When have you ever heard of someone daring to coerce this demoness? You can't even see through such a simple lie. What is it if it's not simple?" Young master, he was completely stunned. Miss Mi Jia is joking?" Qin Wushuang said seriously, "I don't have a mind to understand whether she's joking or not. If I didn't see your innocence, I wouldn't bother to explain so much to you. In short, for that demoness, whoever likes her can go chase after her. I get a headache when I see her, not to mention something as melodramatic as forced marriage." Mi Jia was exposed. yet she was not angry. She walked over with a face full of evil smiles. Hey, you're insulting me before my suitor. Be careful that I don't fall out with you. Qin Wushuang rolled his eyes at her and retorted sarcastically. You can do whatever you want. You fall out faster than flipping a book. Mi Jia said leisurely. You have such a high opinion of me, haha. Young Master Yi realized that he seemed to be truly reckless. He let out an awkward and dry laugh and looked at Mi Jia, then at Qin Wushuang. He seemed to have understood something. Young Master Yi, I was just joking with you. You don't mind it this much, right? Mi Jia asked with a face full of smiles. Young Master Yi's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen Mi Jia talking to him with such a pleasant expression. He immediately smiled apologetically. I don't mind. Ha ha. If it's a misunderstanding, then it's even better. Miss Mi Jia loves to joke. I've always known it. It's not a big deal, ha ha ha. Qin Wushuang did not know whether to admire this guy or despise him. Speaking of despise, although this guy was a dandy, he dared to stand up against someone stronger than him. He was not a dandy without a backbone. Speaking of admiration, this guy was so dead set on a demoness. He was teased so badly, but he was still willing to endure it. This made Qin Wushuang feel that something was not right. Although young master, he was a dandy, he was not the kind of person who could not get along well. After knowing that he had misunderstood Qin Wushuang, he also cupped his fists. Brother, I was reckless just now. I have to apologize to you. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Forget it. I'll teach you a lesson. When you meet this demoness in the future, you must be on your guard. Don't go into a frenzy and fight with your life on the line. If I wasn't in a good mood today and didn't lower myself to your level, the 5 of you would have to go back lying down. Do you believe me? Young Master chuckled. I believe that. Brother, your skills are as fast as a ghost. When I rushed up just now, I was already mentally prepared to be beaten up by you. When he said this, Qin Wushuang was speechless. This guy was really a love saint. He knew that he was going to be beaten up, but he still rushed up without hesitation. The most ridiculous thing was that this hero saving the beauty came at such an inopportune time. Mi Jia had an indifferent look. As a demoness, teasing those men who were drooling over her had always been one of her hobbies. She felt a little regretful that her prank did not work. However, seeing this young master eat like this, she naturally could not continue to tease him. Miss Mi Jia and this brother, as the saying goes, no discord, no concord. I have offended you just now. Why don't we go to the restaurant in front and have a few drinks together? This Yazzie Dragon Race's wine is the best. This young master, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He seized the opportunity and invited. The longer he could stay with Miss Mi Jia, the more chances he had. Mi Jia was just about to drink. She smiled and said, I don't have any objections. It's just that someone seems to be very arrogant. It's hard to say if I can invite him. Young Master Yi smiled apologetically and said, Brother, how about giving me a chance to apologize? Qin Wushuang was noncommittal. If this guy didn't look for trouble, he would be a straightforward person. Qin Wushuang was just about to inquire about something. He nodded and said, Then I shall accept your invitation. When they arrived in front of a restaurant, Qin Wushuang suddenly felt a sharp gaze shooting down from the roof. When he looked up, it was gone. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 761. Although Qin Wushuang was surprised in his heart, he did not take it to heart. Following young Master Yi and his party, they walked into the restaurant. This restaurant obviously had the dragon race background of the Yazzie clan. Therefore, they had an intuitive ability to identify the prominent disciples of the dragon race. Seeing young Master Yi and Mi Jia walk in, they immediately knew that they were the prominent disciples of other dragon races. Not daring to be negligent, someone had already come out to welcome them. Esteemed guests, are you in the hall or in the private room? Young Master Yi did not take on everything, but turned his gaze to Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia. Mi Jia did not even think Of course in the hall. Young Master Yi was stunned and secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he did not act smart and say that he wanted a private room. This Miss Mi Jia was indeed different. Everyone was proud of the private room, but she was happy to be in the hall. Mi Jia glanced at Qin Wushuang. You don't have any objections, right? Qin Wushuang said numbly. In front of you, there doesn't seem to be much difference whether I have objections or not, right? Mi Jia smiled leisurely. Of course, a man should maintain his poise in front of a girl. Don't you agree, young Master Yi? Young Master Yi puffed up his chest. Yes, yes. After finding a spacious seat in the hall and sitting down, young Master Yi's aristocratic style was reflected. A series of actions were very appropriate. Qin Wushuang also praised him when he saw this, putting aside the side of young Master Yi's attitude towards women. In other aspects, he was a good young man. After the wine was poured, young Master Yi glanced at Qin Wushuang. Brother, I have offended you just now. I will punish myself by drinking 3 cups as an apology. By the way, may I know your name? Qin Wushuang gave a sound of yes and said, It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. It's good that you have spoken. As for my name, you can ask Miss Mi Jia in the future. Today, it is inconvenient to tell you. Young Master Yi was stunned, but he did not mind and said with a smile, All right, no matter what, I will drink these 3 cups first. After saying that, he raised his head and drank 3 cups in a row. Mi Jia smiled. Young Master Yi, by the way, what is your full name? My name is Yi Qian. Oh, Yi Qian, right? You want to know who he is? Mi Jia blinked her eyes and asked with a smile. Yi Qian was tactful. Since this brother is not willing to talk about it, he must have his own difficulties. If there's an opportunity in the future, it won't be too late to ask for guidance. Mi Jia smiled leisurely. There's no need for that in the future. I'll tell you now. Qin Wushuang's heart tightened, and he looked around vigilantly. He didn't have the slightest confidence that he could shut this witch's mouth. His only hope was that there were no other troublesome existences in this restaurant. However, to Qin Wushuang's disappointment, the eyes of the surrounding drinkers were all focused on him. Evidently, everyone was very familiar with Witch Mi Jia. At the same time, they were naturally even more curious about Witch Mi Jia's companions. The most dangerous thing was not the area around the hall, but the sound of footsteps coming from upstairs. Thud, 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 thud. Someone was slowly walking down the stone steps. When Yi Qian saw that the atmosphere was a little heavy, he hurriedly smiled and said, Miss Mi Jia, let's talk about this in the future. I'm fortunate enough to drink with Miss Mi Jia. This cup, no matter what, must be a toast to Miss Mi Jia. As soon as he finished speaking, a disdainful snort came from the corridor. Yi Qian, you're really useless. After being taught a lesson, you don't even dare to inquire about the person's name? Such a good-for-nothing. You've really disgraced the name of us non-descendants of the 9 dragon clans. Although Yi Qian had good self-restraint, it didn't mean that he was a pushover. Putting down the wine cup, he said coldly, He's Xinyu. It doesn't seem to be any of your business that we're drinking here, right? That he Xinyu had a tall and straight figure, with distinct edges and corners. His appearance couldn't be said to be very handsome, but he was cold and had a strength of character, giving people a very manly feeling. This person had a hooked nose, a slightly raised mouth corner, and those 2 eyebrows that were almost connected together, showing that this person was a ruthless person. Clearly, Yi Qian restrained his fear of this person. The corner of Yi Xinyu's mouth twitched slightly. Clearly, he despised Yi Qian greatly. He did not even bother to speak. Instead, he walked before Mi Jia directly and picked up a cup to fill it with wine. Carrying a somewhat hypocritical smile, he said to Mi Jia, Miss Mi Jia, this good-for-nothing doesn't dare to listen, but I am extremely interested. How can Mi Jia not know the background of this Yi Xinyu? In terms of seniority, he was 1 generation older than Mi Jia. 100 years ago, he was a young talent whose name shook the endless Eastern Sea. When he became famous 100 years ago, this Yi Xinyu had already entered the supreme Dao stage. Now, after 100 years, the strength of this Yi Xinyu was even more unfathomable. In terms of identity, This Zinyu was an elite warrior of the Cheonyo clan. Among the 18 dragon clans, the Cheonyo clan was a powerful clan that shook the entire region. They were a super existence among the 9 dragon clans. Even Mija felt somewhat pressured before this Zinyu. When this Zinyu appeared, everyone at the scene turned their heads around sensibly and acted as if nothing had happened. They did not even dare to look at the lively scene. The Cheonyo clan settled down at the Evil Spirit Gulf and was adjacent to the 7 Murder Gulf of the Jackal Wolf clan. The two of them had a close relationship. Therefore, in the territory of the Jackal Wolf clan, this Zinyu could be considered half a master. Plus, he was famous for being unreasonable, rude, and treacherous. As soon as he appeared, almost someone would suffer each time. Under Zinyu's pressure, Mija also felt a burst of unease. Yet, she ignored Zinyu's cup and said lightly, "I am not interested in telling you." A trace of cold lights flashed across Zinyu's treacherous eyes. He revealed a light smile. "What if I must know?" Mija glared at Zinyu and said unhappily, "Zinyu, this is not your Evil Spirit Gulf. If you want to behave atrociously, pick a place." "Haha, when Zinyu, do things, it's the same no matter when or where. Even at the Green Universe Gulf of your Horn Dragon clan, I still have this attitude. Zinyu, don't be shameless. You are a supreme Dao expert of the Cheonyo clan. That's right. But our Pu Lao clan is not afraid of you." When Ichien saw that his guest was being harassed, a burst of anger erupted. Zinyu looked at Ichien as if he was looking at an idiot. He sneered and said, "Whether your Pu Lao clan is afraid of my Cheonyo clan, I don't know. But I can be very sure that you are very afraid of me." As he spoke, he didn't look at Ichien, but turned his gaze to Qin Wushuang and sized him up with interest. Qin Wushuang acted as if he didn't hear anything. He played with the wine cup while his other hand was caressing AI Simo. From time to time, he would feed her some jerky to eat. It was as if this Zinyu was like air in his eyes. "What young dragon?" Zinyu's voice was cold. Only then did Qin Wushuang raise his head gently. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a mocking smile. "Your Excellency doesn't seem to be very welcomed here. If I were you, I would leave tactfully." Zinyu smiled evilly and said, "They can't send me away. But you, if you are willing to transfer the young dragon in your hands to me, I will leave immediately without saying anything." When these words came out, Mija shouted on the spot, "Impossible! TSK, TSK. Miss Mija seems to still be a virgin, right? This young dragon should have nothing to do with you. Why are you so nervous?" Zinyu's mouth didn't accumulate virtue as he asked with a strange smile. These words immediately angered Ichien. In his heart, Mija was a goddess. How could he use such vulgar words to blaspheme her? He suddenly stood up and slammed the table. "Zinyu, don't go too far." Zinyu glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and said casually, "I'm going too far. I have been going too far for more than 100 years. Don't tell me that you only know it today." Overbearing person, overbearing words. It made Ichien tongue-tied for a moment and unable to say anything. Ichien's gang wanted to stand out and speak, but under Zinyu's powerful pressure, it was difficult for them to even open their mouths. Their throats were astringent, and they couldn't say a word. Ichien gritted his teeth and roared, "I only know today that you bullied my guest. Even if I, Ichien, can't beat you, I can only fight with you today." Zinyu's eyes flashed, and he laughed loudly. "You want to fight with me?" Ichien scuttled out of his seat like a whirlwind. He rolled up his sleeves and shouted, "I will wait for you outside." Just as he was about to scuttle out, his shoulder suddenly sank. He was pulled by a suction force and walked back to his seat. Qin Wushuang's eyebrows raised slightly. "Brother Ichien, you are still so impulsive." Ichien didn't expect that Qin Wushuang would make a move at this time. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Zinyu saw all of this inside. "You do have some skills. However, I still want this young dragon. Say it. What reward do you want? Say before my mood turns bad. Maybe I can consider rewarding you." This Zinyu obviously didn't put Qin Wushuang and the others in his eyes. His words seemed to carry a kind of high and mighty judgment tone. Mi Jia and AI Simo had been together for a long time. Of course, she couldn't bear to part with her. She shouted, "You have no feelings for this young dragon baby. What do you want to do? You don't have to worry about this." Qin Wushuang chuckled and stroked AI Simo's little head lovingly. Little fellow, although your aptitude is good, you were born to be a troublemaker. You were already so eye-catching when you were just born. How will you be in the future? However, since you call me father, let me ask you, how can a father transfer his daughter to someone else? What's more, he is such an annoying person. Zinnia's expression suddenly changed. A haze immediately gathered on his face, and he smiled sinisterly. It seems that today is really different from the past. Each and every one of you has an indescribable arrogance. Zinniu sneered again and again. His tone suddenly changed. Listen carefully. My patience is already exhausted. I want this young dragon for sure. Moreover, the best chance to ask for a reward has already been squandered by you. Qin Wushuang suddenly stared at Zinniu as if he was looking at an idiot. He sneered and asked, "Sire, is there any meaning in talking to yourself like this? Xuanyo clan, it sounds like a big name. Tell me, if I don't agree, what will you do? Do you think you have the qualification to not agree?" Zinniu's face was covered with frost. His tone was full of contempt. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 762. Mi Jia was the first to accept Zinniu's arrogant tone. She grabbed with her hand, and the long whip was already in her hand. A crimson light was extremely dazzling. With a light shake, there were powerful supreme Tao ripples. She gritted her teeth. Zinniu, I will test you first. You? Zinniu's eyelids didn't even move. Miss Mi Jia, although I don't have any feelings towards the Horn Dragon clan, in this kind of situation, I don't want others to say that I bullied a woman. The moment Mi Jia heard the word woman, she flew into a rage. What's wrong with being a woman? Take this. Mi Jia's character was swift and fierce. If she wanted to fight, she would fight. She would not be polite. As the long whip coiled, red rays of light condensed and adhered to the long whip. It looked like a red lightning bolt dancing in the air. With a casual twist, it wrapped around Zinniu's neck. Zinniu's eyelids finally twitched slightly, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He gently lifted his palm, and his wrist actually took the initiative to roll towards Mi Jia's whip. The red light shone brightly, and Zinniu's wrist shone brightly. Instantly, it was wrapped around a few times. Zinniu looked at Mi Jia with a smile that was not a smile. Miss Mi Jia, if you really want to fight, you are still far from it. The fingertip of his left hand touched the tip of the whip lightly. A strong divine power poured in like a tide and flowed towards Mi Jia through the whip. Mi Jia felt as if her entire body had been electrocuted. Her facial expression kept changing. Clenching his teeth, he activated his aura once again, sending it out continuously. He actually wanted to fight head-on with Zinniu. Qin Wushuang's figure flashed and already scurried to Mi Jia's side. Although this Mi Jia was crazy and loved to stir up trouble, no matter what, she was still the same kind of person. Qin Wushuang naturally saw that this Mi Jia was not Zinniu's opponent. He scuttled in front of Mi Jia and bellowed, "Let go!" With a grab of his right hand, he had already grabbed Mi Jia's whip in his hand. That Zinniu originally still had some tender feelings for the fair sex. Seeing Qin Wushuang make a move was exactly what he wanted. He continued to urge his power, and waves of energy surged over. Qin Wushuang's expression was indifferent, like an ancient well without ripples. Activate power of deep north and absorb it. 1, 2, 3. When the surging energy reached the edge of Qin Wushuang's palm, it immediately became like a tamed beast. It obediently lined up in an orderly manner and was sucked into Qin Wushuang's dantian one after another. With one breath, Qin Wushuang was also secretly in awe. This Xinyu is indeed stronger than the Flood Dragon Clan Supreme Tao. I'm afraid he is at least at the 6th or 8th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao. It is indeed different from the 3rd or 4th tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao. However, no matter how turbulent the power of the Divine Tao, of the Coagulate Divine Tao, was, Qin Wushuang was still able to receive it with a smile. In fact, Qin Wushuang didn't feel any discomfort at all. Instead, he faintly enjoyed it. This kind of Divine Tao power was the most substantial, making his Dantian feel an extremely pleasant feeling. When Xinyu saw Qin Wushuang, he had always thought that he was at the peak of the common mysterious realm. He didn't expect that when he activated a few Divine Tao powers, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. His expression changed slightly. Xinyu faintly realized that the calm and composed young man standing in front of him was much more powerful than he imagined. "Brat, what kind of method are you using?" Xinyu shouted. His wrist shook and directly shook off the whip. Qin Wushuang secretly lamented that it was a pity. He had hoped that this Xinyu would show off and persist for a while more. However, this Xinyu was actually very sensitive. After suffering a little loss, he immediately let go. With Xinyu's powerful ability, it was obviously not possible for Qin Wushuang to use power of Deep North to lock the other party in one go. Qin Wushuang took advantage of the situation and lashed out with his whip. Divine Tao power poured into the entire whip. Like a long rod, it directly smashed towards Xinyu's head. Xinyu snorted lightly. A ray of light flashed from his sleeve. A light blade blocked above his head, giving off a tragic metal collision sound. The light overflowed and splashed countless fragments, spreading outwards in circles. It caused a commotion in the surroundings, and the diners hurried to avoid it. Qin Wushuang did not wait for his move to finish, and his body had already rushed out of the restaurant. His melodious voice could be heard. "Xinyu, if you want my young dragon, follow me if you have the guts." Xinyu laughed nastily. Without even looking at Mi Jia and Yi Qian, his figure flashed, and he chased after Qin Wushuang. Yi Qian was very anxious and asked, "Miss Mi Jia, are we going?" Mi Jia waved her hand and suddenly thought of something. "Oh right, Yi Qian, what are you doing in the Yazi Dragon City?" Yi Qian scratched his head and laughed embarrassedly. Now, many disciples of the Dragon Clan have left their own territories and are heading towards the eastern polar region. I just want to follow them and join in the fun. "So, you're just passing by here?" "Yes, Miss Mi Jia too, right?" Yi Qian asked. "Is there any latest news?" Mi Jia frowned. Now, the leaders of the Dragon Clan are all in the first-rate Dragon Palace. There shouldn't be many people in the eastern polar region now. I only arrived here because I'm closer. Is there any news about the Golden Crow? Yi Qian's complexion changed slightly and said with a bitter smile, "Of course not. Whoever has news about the Golden Crow, I'm afraid they won't be able to bring it out alive." "All right, Miss Mi Jia, who is that brother? How many friends does this Xinyu have in the Yazi Dragon Clan?" The Seven Murders Abyss and the Evil Spirit Abyss have always been on good terms. I'm afraid it won't be very beneficial to him. Mi Jia snorted coldly. This Xinyu is courting death. Forget it. If you don't want to get into trouble, you should also leave this Yazi Dragon City quickly. After saying that, Mi Jia also rushed out like a whirlwind. Yi Qian was stunned for a moment and said to himself, "Miss Mi Jia is actually concerned about me and want me to leave the Yazi Dragon City. I can't let her good intentions down." Thinking of this, Yi Qian's dejection was swept away, and he happily paid the bill. Unexpectedly, he obediently rushed out of the Yazi Dragon City. Mi Jia wasn't worried that Qin Wushuang would leave first. She had her own secret technique to track Qin Wushuang. After leaving the Yazi Dragon City, Mi Jia's speed also increased by a lot. However, even so, she was still unable to shorten the distance between her and Qin Wushuang. As for that Xinyu, he was also quite impressive. He was so thick-skinned and was actually very persistent. He chased relentlessly and stuck to them like a dog far plaster. Although Mi Jia knew that Xinyu's methods were powerful, she had also experienced Qin Wushuang's heaven-defying methods. Therefore, she wasn't too worried. As long as Qin Wushuang didn't fall into a tight encirclement, she didn't need to worry at all. "He Xinyu, this bastard, don't die too early," Mi Jia scolded angrily. Qin Wushuang led that he Xinyu and flew out of the Yazi Dragon City towards the east. The territory of the Seven Murders Abyss was 4 to 500,000 miles. Flying in a straight line, to leave the territory of the Seven Murders Abyss, there was at least a distance of 100,000 miles. Qin Wushuang had deliberately slowed down his speed when he had tracked them until dusk. He knew that this place was already at the border of the Seven Murders Abyss territory. They were even further away from the Evil Spirit Abyss. As long as they left the Seven Murders Abyss and the Evil Spirit Abyss, this He Xinyu would not have a heaven-defying helper in a short time. Inwardly, He Xinyu was also astonished. Initially, he thought that it would be a piece of cake to chase and kill an elite warrior beneath the Supreme Tao stage. In the end, he realized that everything was his own wishful thinking. After a day of chasing, it allowed him to completely understand what it meant to be a troublesome opponent. Inwardly, He Xinyu also felt strange. Since when did such a monstrous figure emerge from my endless eastern sea? Could he be a totem disciple? As he thought this way, a burst of cold sweat emerged on the back of He Xinyu's spine. Immediately, he overthrew this thought. It's impossible for a totem disciple to be with that little bitch Mi Jia. Besides, the totem disciple doesn't even need to make a move with me. He could just reveal his identity. Why would he need to do this? While he was lost in thought, suddenly he changed his mind. A while ago, 5 elite warriors of the Crocodile Dragon, Winged Dragon, and Hornless Dragon clan went missing. Calculating the time, it seems to be close. I heard that those 5 guys went for that Qin clan disciple of the Xianyuan Mound, an existence that was able to kill 5 supreme Tao powerhouses. Who was it? Could it be related to this guy? Vividly, there are fluctuations of dragon presence from this guy. Could he be a disciple of the Dragon Clan? He Xinyu kept thinking, yet he could not figure out a clue. However, vividly, he sensed that the background of this person should not be small, or else he would not be so sensitive about his identity and be unwilling to speak of it. While he was lost in thought, suddenly movement emerged from He Xinyu's communication jade plate. He immediately activated it. "Xinyu, are you encountering trouble?" The one who spoke was a supreme Tao elite warrior from the Jackal Wolf clan. He was an elite warrior that shared a good relationship with He Xinyu. "Yes, Shuya, where are you? Could you invite a few friends out? I've been chasing towards the east. I found a kid that is extremely strange. I suspect that he is a guy that escaped from the Xianyuan Mound." "A guy that escaped from the Xianyuan Mound? You're talking about that young disciple of the Qin clan, Qin Wushuang?" The other party asked with astonishment. "For now, I'm not sure. However, I always feel that he is not a disciple of the Dragon Clan. Shuya, regardless of whether he is or not, we must go to the eastern polar region. Come quickly. If he is that kid, we should take him down together and seize the graceful spiritual bow. That's the most important thing. Seize the graceful spiritual bow." Instantly, the tone of the other party became complicated. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "All right, you try to hold him back. I will bring people over now. Remember to be quick." A burst of fanaticism surged from the bottom of He Xinyu's heart. Greedy thoughts overflowed from his mind. When he thought of the graceful spiritual bow and that young dragon with unlimited potential, He Xinyu felt that his entire body was boiling. While he was thinking, suddenly a burst of imposing manner surged from the front. He Xinyu moved his consciousness and immediately followed it. With a glance from the corner of his eyes, he saw a person spreading out his wings and rushing over with majestic, imposing manner. He held a spear in his hand. Indeed, he was the person that lured him out a moment ago. When He Xinyu saw the pair of wings on his back, he suddenly remembered something. "Indeed, it's you. You know it's me. Do you still want to leave today?" Qin Wushuang asked coldly. He Xinyu roared with laughter. "Such an arrogant kid. It seems you will not shed tears until you see the coffin. A kid from the Xianyuan Mound came to my endless eastern sea to behave atrociously. Kid, I think you are tired of living. Qin Wushuang gave a cold sneer. Less nonsense, watch my spear. Pointing the tip of the spear, a burst of spear light filled the entire head of the spear and shot over with a rumbling sound. To be continued. If you want to know about the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 763. When that Xiniu saw him attacking with the spear, he didn't dare to lower his guard. The blade in his hand swayed, and he also blasted out a blade. It turned into thousands of sharp blade lights and rolled over. However, he chuckled and said, Kid, don't you have the graceful spiritual bow? Why don't you use it? Qin Wushuang said coldly, once the graceful spiritual bow is used, you will definitely die. Xiniu's heart shivered, but he said unyieldingly, we will only know who will die after we try. You're just a cultivator below the supreme Tao stage. If you don't have the graceful spiritual bow, how can you be qualified to fight with me? How could Qin Wushuang not know that the other party was trying to provoke him? He hoped that he wouldn't use the graceful spiritual bow, but he deliberately said it as if he wasn't afraid of the graceful spiritual bow. He smiled faintly and suddenly withdrew the power of the spear. He smiled and said, since you want to see the graceful spiritual bow, I won't let you down. When Xiniu's provocation didn't work, his heart shivered. However, he appeared to be unconcerned and said casually, just use it. Qin Wushuang urged the purple cloud in yang wings, and his body glided backward slowly. He grabbed with his palm, and it was instantly overflowing with golden light. He grabbed the graceful spiritual bow in his hand, and the shooting sun arrows were already nocked. When Xiniu saw the graceful spiritual bow, his eyes instantly became blurred. He made a hand gesture, and countless afterimages were immediately formed. They converged and disappeared into the void. Obviously, although Xiniu talked about how powerful he was still very afraid when the graceful spiritual bow that could destroy the world appeared. Qin Wushuang urged his divine senses, and his divine senses covered a radius of a few hundred feet as he pursued continuously. It was obvious that Xiniu couldn't get close to the range of 1,000 feet. Although he disappeared into the void, he was still wandering at the side and observing Qin Wushuang's every move. Qin Wushuang also didn't release the falcon until he saw the rabbit. He didn't shoot from start to finish. Instead, his eyes were deep and his divine light swept around in all directions. Xiniu obviously wanted to stall for time. He condensed his divine senses into a voice and actually changed the trajectory of the voice. It was as if it was coming out from the ground. Qin Wushuang, the Flood Dragon, Winged Dragon, and Hornless Dragon Clan Supreme Tao experts have gone missing. It's not wrong to put this debt on you, right? Kid, it's all right for you to behave atrociously at the Xian Yuan Mound. However, you are seeking your own death by coming to my endless eastern sea. Qin Wushuang turned a deaf ear and opened his transcendence eyes completely. The observant-fingered jade plate was constantly swaying in front of him, and he could naturally lock onto Xiniu's position. However, this Xiniu was very cunning. Even though he was hiding his body, he was still moving quickly, and he did not stop at all. With his speed, Qin Wushuang's success rate of accurately hitting him would not exceed 30%. In a battle with such an opponent, once the first wave of attacks was off target, the initiative of the subsequent attacks would be completely grasped by the opponent. At that time, the rhythm of the entire battle would be completely out of control. Therefore, Qin Wushuang would rather congeal and not fire than shoot randomly. At this moment, from the west, a red cloud was charging towards them at an incomparably fast speed. When Qin Wushuang caught a glimpse of that imposing manner from the corner of his eyes, he already knew that it was Mijia. While Mijia was moving at a rapid speed, she had already revealed her body completely. A long red dragon that was spitting out red clouds all of a sudden rushed over. She opened her mouth, and like a volcanic eruption, The red flames instantly dyed half of the horizon red. The power of this divine dragon fire was extremely great. Once it was activated, even someone as strong as Zinyu would not dare to neglect it. With a flash, he already appeared in the clouds and swore, "Bitch, you live off one person while secretly helping the other. You colluded with human martial artists to deal with the Dragon Clan's passageway. How should you be punished? Go die." Mi Jiao was too lazy to speak nonsense. She kept opening her mouth, and those flames kept gushing out one after another. Instantly, a giant blood-red whirlpool formed in the entire blue dome of heaven. It formed a burning chain as if it was going to trap that Zinyu inside the whirlpool. Zinyu gave a low shout, and his body also rolled up. Indistinctly, orange-yellow scales appeared around his body. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, this radiance appeared even more eerie. Qianyo arched his body, and his entire body curled up into a ball. Suddenly, his body stretched out incomparably. With a roar, he actually dashed out of the giant red whirlpool directly. Baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, he charged towards Mi Jia. The power of the seventh tribulation of the Coagulate Supreme Tao stage was fully displayed at this moment. Wherever the divine light passed, the red clouds that were dyed by the red whirlpool were nibbled away at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. It was as if it was swept away cleanly like a whirlwind. In the blink of an eye, Mi Jia was also a little stunned. Only then did she realize the gap between them. However, it seemed to be a little too late. At this moment, Qin Wushuang gave a long shout. With the purple cloud Yin-Yang wings piercing through the void, he rushed over hurriedly. The graceful spiritual bow in his hand was also stretched out incomparably. Both of his arms were stretched out. Like a godly archer who had been on the battlefield for a long time, he almost did not need to aim and just drew the bow directly. Whoosh! The bowstring vibrated and the sound pierced through the clouds. It shook the clouds until they were extinguished and the blue dome of heaven shattered. That shooting sun arrow was like a hunting dog that saw its prey as it rapidly shot towards Zinyu's doppelganger. Just as Zinyu was about to reach the front of Mi Jia, that shooting sun arrow, which was shot later, arrived first. It had already shot to within 10 zhang of his back. Zinyu roared like a tiger. With a sweep of his dragon tail, he rolled it crazily. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, countless circles of supreme Tao ripples overflowed unceasingly and condensed into a ball. It continuously formed a dragon's breath barrier behind the doppelganger. It was like a transparent giant wall. Mi Jia also took advantage of this blink of an eye to soar into the sky. She swept over Zinyu's head and met up with Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang raised his left hand and threw Mi Jia's whip into the sky. Mi Jia took advantage of the opportunity to roll the whip and kept it in her doppelganger. Boom! At this moment, a tragic explosion resounded through the clouds. When a shooting sun arrow slammed into the divine Tao barrier, it actually got stuck. 2 powerful forces, like 2 overbearing wild beasts, met on the single plank bridge. No one was willing to give way to the other and appeared to be in a state of anxiety. Qin Wushuang was greatly surprised. This was the first time, definitely the first time, the power of the graceful spiritual bow and shooting sun arrow was actually blocked by the other party's supreme Tao power. As expected of a 7th or 8th Tribulation Supreme Tao elite warrior. The barrier formed by this dragon's breath was much, much stronger than Lei Ming and Luo Tongtian. It was no wonder that Mi Jia was not even a match for Zinyu. Qin Wushuang was also a person who would become stronger when encountering a strong opponent. Seeing that the shooting sun arrow was in a state of anxiety, he opened his arm and knocked another shooting sun arrow on the bowstring. At this moment, Mi Jia said anxiously, "Don't be obsessed with fighting. Leave quickly." Shuya of the Yazi clan has gathered a group of experts and left the Yazi Dragon City in a hurry. They are heading here. She was afraid that Qin Wushuang did not know the inside story. Shuya and this Zinyu are best friends. His cultivation is higher than Zinyu's. Leave quickly. Qin Wushuang, was expressionless as he asked, "How long have they left?" "I don't know how long. Anyway, they will be here soon." When Mi Jia thought of the pestering of the Yazi clan, she also had goosebumps. Among the 18 dragon clans, there were many forces that were not to be trifled with. However, if one were to talk about the few dragon clans that were not to be trifled with, the Yazi clan would definitely be in the top 3. They could even be ranked first. Once the Yazi clan set their eyes on someone, they would really be like maggots in the bones. They would not rest until they were dead. Qin Wushuang's gaze was piercingly cold as he stared at He Xinyu in the distance. He gritted his teeth and said, "If I don't kill this bastard, I will always feel uncomfortable. However, to kill this person, unless I enter the Supreme Tao, there's no hope at all. Even if you want to kill him, it is not now. Leave quickly," Mi Jia urged. Qin Wushuang sighed. He knew that today's matter was already impossible. He could only make a feint. With a wave of his arm, he called back the shooting sun arrow. He dashed forward together with Mi Jia. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared among the clouds. After this battle, He Xinyu also put away his contempt completely. He looked ahead with a dazed expression, and bursts of vicious lights flowed out from his eyes. This battle allowed him to learn some lessons and also aroused his vicious nature. Upon thinking of the power of the graceful spiritual bow, He Xinyu's entire body could not refrain from swaying. Indeed, it was too powerful. A martial artist beneath the Supreme Tao stage could fight against him. A 7th Calamity Coagulate Supreme Tao warrior using the graceful spiritual bow. It was enough to see how powerful the graceful spiritual bow was. He Xinyu panted lightly and secretly clenched his fists. If I can get that graceful spiritual bow with my talent, in the future at this endless eastern sea, even the forefather dragon clan will treat me with special respect, right? Qin Wushuang and Mi Jia headed east. After dashing for 100,000 miles in one breath, when they saw that He Xinyu did not follow them, they slowed down their footsteps slightly. This time, Mi Jia was also anxious. A moment ago, if Qin Wushuang had not saved her in time, most likely she would have been swallowed by He Xinyu. Mi Jia had a lingering fear and knew that this time she had caused a disaster. If she had not deliberately teased that Yi Qian, most likely she would not have attracted that He Xinyu. Qin Wushuang, wait a moment. What? Qin Wushuang was expressionless. I'm sorry. Mi Jia's throat was somewhat dry. She rarely spoke these 3 words in her lifetime. Therefore, it appeared somewhat awkward to say, "Let be, before we enter the restaurant. This He Xinyu already had his eyes on you and me. Whether you made a scene or not, he would have come to find trouble." Then, Qin Wushuang felt that he was too easy to talk to, as he said again, "Anyways, after we arrive at the rushing current valley, we will each take what we need and go our separate ways. No one owes anyone anything." Mi Jia faintly sighed and did not refute. She was in a daze, as if she was thinking about something. After the two had been taught a lesson by He Xinyu, Mi Jia's demonic nature had indeed been restrained. She also knew that if she continued to make trouble, perhaps Qin Wushuang would break up with her immediately. Without Qin Wushuang's help, it was impossible for her to obtain the scarlet blazing fire. After being attacked by He Xinyu, Mi Jia's desire for the scarlet blazing fire increased. She said in her heart, "If I had used the scarlet blazing fire to surround that He Xinyu, it would be impossible for him to rush out. I must obtain this fire. He Xinyu, just you wait. This debt, I will settle it with you sooner or later." After exiting the 7 Kills Abyss, they were getting closer to the eastern polar region. About half a month later, the two finally arrived at the rumored eastern polar region. What entered their eyes, other than the boundless mist and torrential water, there was nothing else. The water and the sky were the same color. Everything was boundless. Qin Wushuang looked at the boundless mist and could not help but be somewhat disappointed. This is the eastern polar region? How can we find the scarlet blazing fire in such a boundless body of water? Mi Jia said, "Don't be impatient. Although the eastern polar region is like this all year round, there will be times when it clears up, Let's wait for a while. When the weather improves and the vision is better, we will look for the entrance to the rushing current valley. The terrain of the eastern polar region is very simple. However, because of the mist all year round, it is extremely easy to get lost. If it is not a sunny day, we must not get involved. Qin Wushuang looked at the boundless body of water and was confused. Fusang Wood, Scarlet Blazing Fire. Will there be them here? To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.